Bonsoir tout le monde. Good evening, everyone. We'll get started. Thank you for joining us today. So we start with item 1, roll call. Councillor Lalonde is away this evening and his absence has been motivated. So other than that, all members of council are present with that exception. Item 2, territorial land acknowledgement statement and moment of reflection. I will start. I've got, I think I have you, Councillor Deacon. Yeah.
Nous reconnaissons que nous sommes sur les territoires non cédés des Anishinaabe et les terres traditionnelles des peuples Haudenosaunee, Huron-Wendat et Kenyan-Kahaka. Nous reconnaissons notre obligation commune de respecter, d'honorer et de préserver ces terres et les ressources naturelles qu'elles contiennent.
Merci, Conseil Deacon. Whereas Canada is founded upon the principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law, let us take a moment of personal reflection. Canada, our home and native.
Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Alors, on tombe à l'item numéro 4, additions, deletions, or amendments. So I've got a few here. Madame Camille Laflamme, first of all, I would like to separate item 10F out of consent items. That's the stormwater report. C'est bon? Après ça, on regarde under item 11. We are presenting 11F prior to 11A. Add 13A, or was it added already? No, 13A for notice of motion by Councillor Doran. And that's reduction of speed on County Road 3, also known as Notre-Dame in Embrun. C'est beau. We're going to add 18A, request for bollards on Cobblestone in Russell, Councillor Doran. 18B, service standards for planning notifications with the Planning Act, Councillor Doran. 18C, Central Park speeding, Councillor Deacon. 18D, water restrictions update by myself. And 18E, Notre-Dame infrastructure update by myself as well. Anything else, members of council? Councillor Deacon?
Just to say that I would like to propose suspension of the rules of procedure at item 15 to provide for question and answer from the public following discussion of the resolution, but prior to voting.
Okay, so you're moving that. Do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Doran. Call for the vote. All in favor to suspend rules of procedure, and that's carried. So we will have a question period specifically after 15A for that particular topic only. Okay.
Merci.
Just 2 seconds, I'll get all my stuff organized. So that question period will come following the discussion we have. Merci. Any other additions or deletions or amendments, members of council? No? Perfect. So we move to item number 5, adoption of agenda. Motion to approve the agenda as amended, and this is moved by Councillor Deacon, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Call for the vote. All in favor, and passed. Thank you. We move to item 6, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. We move to item 7, adoption of minutes. Motion to approve the minutes from our regular council meeting on May 25th, 2026. This is moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Deacon. Call for the vote. All in favor, and passed. Thank you, councillors. And we move to item number 8. So we have 2 items in number 8, A and B. So we'll start with A, and this is always a pleasure for me to do. And on that note, A is a citizens recognition for community service and volunteerism that will be awarded to Ms. Josée Martel and Mr. Kim Vincent, founders of Ability Hive, that are here with us. And so I just have a little text I'd like to read. This is, again, probably my favorite part of these council meetings. So thank you for the opportunity to do this. So good evening, bonsoir à tout le monde. It's my pleasure this evening to recognize 2 outstanding community leaders, Kim Vincent and Josée Martel, co-founders of Ability Hive in Embrun. Tonight's recognition is about community service, volunteerism, and the difference 2 dedicated residents have made in making Russell Township more welcoming and accessible for children, young adults, and families with diverse needs. Depuis 2023, Kim et Josée ont fait preuve d'un engagement remarquable envers les familles de notre communauté. They saw a need in Russell Township and chose to step forward. By raising awareness, by creating opportunities, and by helping children and families participate more fully in community life. In 2023, Kim and Josée organized Russell Township's first accessible Halloween trick-or-treat event for children with disabilities. This gave children and families the opportunity to enjoy a much-loved community tradition in a safe, welcoming, and accessible environment. The event was well received and now has become an annual celebration. Pardon me. And always a very busy celebration that's very well attended, and always a pleasure to go visit on that particular day. En 2024, ils ont poursuivi ce bel élan en organisant le premier événement Sensory Santa, offrant aux enfants ayant des besoins particuliers une expérience calme, positive et inclusive pendant la période des fêtes. This application came fully supported and wholeheartedly endorsed by the Township's Accessibility Advisory Committee. The committee recognizes Kim and Josée for their hard work and dedication in promoting the needs of children and young adults with developmental disabilities in our township. Their commitment also continues beyond the events we are recognizing here tonight. As a matter of fact, later this week, Kim and Josée will be supporting the special Friends Day event by our fire services for local high school students with special needs. That continued involvement is another example of how they show up for young people, families, and our broader community. Through their volunteer efforts, Kim and Josée have helped create spaces where children can take part, more families can feel included, and more residents can see accessibility in action. Grâce à leur dévouement, ils contribuent à faire de notre communauté un endroit plus accueillant, plus inclusif et certainement plus humain. So on behalf of Council and our entire township, au nom du Conseil et de toute notre municipalité, I'm honored to present this Citizens Recognition Award to Kim and Josée, so Kim Vincent and Josée Martel. Kim and Josée, thank you for your service, your compassion, and your commitment to our municipality. Merci sincèrement de votre dévouement envers notre communauté et félicitations. So if I can get council members to come down, we'd like to get a picture opportunity, if that's okay. Now, we'd like to move it there.
I moved that little piece. This has the label.
All right, congratulations once again. Thank you so much for everything you do. Really appreciate it. Well done. Oui, oui, c'est bon. Alors, on va continuer. On va tomber à l'item B. Alors, on a ce soir ici avec nous Manon Doran and Mark Fletcher on behalf of le Conseil des arts de Prescott-Russell Arts Council, also known as CAPRAC, so Connecting Citizens with Their Community. Alors, bonsoir et bienvenue. Merci d'être ici parmi nous ce soir. Alors, je vous cède la parole.
Merci de nous accueillir. On est ici, moi, Manon Doran, mon collègue.
Est-ce que le micro est allumé? Non.
Oh,
OK, c'est bon.
désolée.
C'est bon.
Merci de nous accueillir. On est heureux d'être ici au nom du Conseil des arts de Prescott-Russell. Je suis Manon avec mon collègue Mark qui est président du conseil d'administration. Alors, on est ici pour vous parler de l'importance des arts, de la culture et du patrimoine et comment ça favorise de tisser des liens entre nos citoyens et nos communautés. Alors, lorsqu'on organise des événements ou des projets artistiques ou culturels, ce sont des moments d'importance pour nos citoyens qui créent une fierté civique et qui favorisent le développement d'une appartenance à notre région, à notre communauté. Les gens sont fiers d'être citoyens de Russell. Lorsqu'on met les arts et la culture en avant, on favorise aussi de promouvoir les artistes locaux et de développer leur carrière artistique. Les arts et la culture augmentent les retombées économiques locales de vos projets et peuvent transformer un projet utilitaire dans un projet d'exception. Par exemple, lorsqu'on inclut un projet d'art public dans un projet d'infrastructure, on crée un héritage communautaire pour les générations à venir. Donc, ce n'est pas seulement pour maintenant, c'est des retombées sur plusieurs générations. Ça favorise la vitalité de nos communautés et la qualité de vie de nos citoyens. Les dernières recherches démontrent que la créativité et les arts favorisent la santé mentale et la santé physique autant que les activités sportives. Récemment, le Conseil des arts de l'Ontario, en 2025, a fait une étude pour démontrer l'importance du secteur des arts et de la culture en Ontario. Donc, je vais vous parler des chiffres qui sont spécifiques à l'Est ontarien. La valeur des entreprises culturelles et artistiques de l'Est ontarien est à 2,7 milliards de dollars et crée 27 000 emplois dans l'Est ontarien seulement. Je vais inviter mon collègue Mark Fletcher à vous parler pour la suite.
Merci beaucoup, Manon, pour avoir bien expliqué l'importance de l'art, la culture et le patrimoine. So, as a city council, so what? What are we going to do about it? The Arts Council has some suggestions for all of the 8 municipalities in Prescott-Russell, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to pass those suggestions on. We really want to situate the Arts Council as your partner. If you need us, we're here for you. So there are 4 elements that we would suggest as part of an arts, culture, and heritage policy framework. The first is capital planning, and just as an example, the City of Ottawa and the City of Kitchener set aside 1% of their major capital projects for art, culture, and heritage. And that can take many forms. I really look at it as the cherry on top of the cake. It's really what makes some of these infrastructure projects special. You guys pay for sewers and that sorts of thing. People don't see that. They don't necessarily have a great sense of pride in the infrastructure that they don't see. But if we can add something to those infrastructure projects that makes the community proud, I think that would be worthwhile. Policy alignment would be the second thing we would recommend, looking at your graffitis and murals policy. Maybe there are other projects that the council's involved in, other departments, could be the fire department or some other department within the city, that maybe arts, culture, and heritage could become a part of whatever programming they're interested in. Thirdly, direct investment. There could be a consideration for a municipal arts acquisition program. That's one option. And then just the coordination of municipal cultural and heritage events. One of the things the Arts Council can do is help link other municipalities, because we have that broader mandate, and maybe we can do something that makes us more than the sum of our parts. Direct investment also supports small business and tourism in the community. And then I think finally, and thank you again for the opportunity, please work with your Arts Council. We're here as a resource for you to help leverage existing resources and networks, and maybe we can help identify opportunities for broader community involvement for all the reasons, good reasons that Manon had outlined. So thank you very much. I think I put up a dad joke. So please milk us for all that we're worth. We'd like to be your partner. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for the presentation. Monsieur Dagenet, sans vous mettre sur le spot, comme on dit, là, je vais vous poser la question. Dans notre plan stratégique du développement communautaire économique, est-ce on parle d'une stratégie pour l'art et la culture, comment ça peut s'impliquer? Puis, pas obligé de me répondre tout de suite, on peut en revenir après, mais est-ce qu'il y a une façon ici de travailler plus ensemble avec cette organisation-là?
Bonsoir, Monsieur le maire, chers membres du Conseil. Oui, quand on a fait le plan stratégique, c'était dans les plans là, de pouvoir offrir, de développer ce côté-là là, de la municipalité. Fait que oui, je pense que c'est une bonne occasion, puis on va rentrer en contact avec eux pour voir ce qu'on peut faire ensemble dans le futur.
OK, merci beaucoup. Alors ça, c'est déjà important. C'est important. Nous autres, justement, on vient d'adopter le plan stratégique ici pour notre communauté. J'aimerais savoir, de la façon que vous parlez, c'est que vous allez présenter ou vous avez déjà présenté à d'autres municipalités?
Nous sommes invités aux autres municipalités.
OK.
Vous êtes le premier.
Ah, ben c'est formidable. On se sent choyé. Merci beaucoup. And have you presented at counties as well? Because I know you've been at counties for funding, if I remember correctly.
The county does provide our operational funding.
Okay. And is that something that that kind of messaging could also come through counties as well to the municipalities? And I would highly encourage you to do a similar presentation at the county level for sure. And I was interested by your 1% capital project kind of examples with Ottawa and Kitchener. Do you have examples of smaller communities and what could be done at smaller levels in terms of investments like that? Whoever's comfortable, yeah.
Sure. I don't have any specific examples that I could provide you. We're in a similar 1% kind of municipal project. I think for Ottawa and Kitchener, they limit that to $2 million projects and above.
Okay.
But I think, I guess my suggestion would be, it doesn't have to be a huge amount of money to make a big difference. It could be a small $1,000, $2,000 element to just bring some visibility. And remember, it's not just art. It could be something like heritage. I was talking to Mary Ozanth,
Yep.
and one of the things they're doing is they're taking the museum in Clarence Rockland, and they're actually pushing it out into the municipal buildings. So they're creating little kiosks in the arenas and some of the public buildings to sort of show the history and the heritage. That's not very expensive, and that's an example, I
Okay.
guess, of how you could really take the policy and make it something real.
Allez-y, Manon.
Juste aussi pour faire une suggestion, il y a des fois où est-ce que le projet est déjà en cours, puis on se demande comment on peut faire pour intégrer une composante artistique dans le projet. Par exemple, le complexe sportif qui a été construit dans la Nation, ils n'ont pas pensé, pendant la construction, à impliquer les arts et la culture dans l'édifice. Toutefois, en cours de construction, ils ont trouvé un mur pour y mettre une galerie pour les artistes régionaux. Donc, c'est mieux quand c'est planifié en avance, mais c'est possible de le faire en cours de route.
Merci. Puis ma dernière question, ce serait vraiment au niveau de CAPRAC, ce serait que vous êtes là pour nous supporter quand on veut aller dans cette direction. Alors, vous n'êtes pas ici vraiment, vous n'êtes pas ici pour demander pour des sous comme tel. Parce que je cherchais où ce que c'était écrit, ça, parce que normalement, c'est ça qui arrive. Ah oui, absolument. Alors, j'étais content de voir ça, puis je suis content de votre approche. Je pense que c'est une très bonne approche, puis vraiment de parler d'art et culture. Puis c'est important pour nous autres dans la communauté. Je pense qu'on a investi beaucoup. D'ailleurs, on va parler de notre bibliothèque ici sous peu. La bibliothèque, on a un gros complexe récréatif qui s'en vient. On a un nouveau musée de la gare qui s'en vient aussi avec puis ça, c'est un groupe communautaire qui a travaillé pour développer ça. Alors, c'est très important, puis ça fait partie de notre DNA, comme on dit, dans la municipalité. Alors, on est très content de vous avoir comme partenaire. J'ouvrirai the floor if there are any questions or comments from other members of council. Councillor Deacon?
Thank you so much for coming tonight. I did have a couple of questions, sort of in line with Mr. Mayor's questions as well. I was looking at the Parks and Recreation Master Plan that came just a couple of meetings ago that did allude to a need for more public space for art. And I believe in that report there was actually, it was one of the top pieces of feedback from residents was wanting to see more art, more public art, more opportunity for art programming here as well. So that really caught my eye because frankly, that's not what I was expecting. I'm not an artist, but you know, I had the pleasure of spending some time with visual artists in our community, sitting around having coffee together, and the way that they describe the work that they do and its importance for our community, our cohesion, our sense of self, it was just simply enlightening. And so I'm glad to see that in our recreation master plan that we have something tipping its hat to space for art and perhaps programming for the arts in our community. I'm also really glad to hear tonight that part of the community development work that we're looking at also includes that. So I kind of see two departments implicated in some way, shape, or form in terms of their strategies and the directions that they're going in on this file. One of the things that we were working together on at the library for the Embrun branch was we did a trivia night where we raised just under $10,000 for a mural that would be put into the future Embrun branch. Very proud of the hard work that our board did that evening, that staff did that evening to raise those funds. And one of the first things that came up at the table after those funds were raised is, how do we do this? We know that we have funding for a mural, but we don't know what the next steps are and how to connect or what the process should be for procuring or selecting an artist, or even how much community involvement should be in the project itself, or if it's, artist free range. So I just want to give that as an example of something that I think an arts administration organization like the Arts Council could provide that sort of information. And so, Manon, did you want to say something?
Well, I just want to say that it would be something we would be thrilled to help with. The possibilities can be tailored to your needs, but we have a wide selection of artists that could accompany the project or deliver the project completely. There's artists that do murals that like working with community and have lots of community involvement, but there's artists that take commission that can just, you deliver what you want to see in the mural, and they have a vision, they make a draft, and they create the whole thing. So the possibilities are varied, but we can accompany in making those decisions.
Yeah, thanks for giving examples of how that, from your perspective too, which is so much more experience than my own. I do want to talk budget, and if there is a possibility of the Arts Council sitting down, for example, with administration, to discuss ways that our strategies and our master plans could come to life. I am thinking about the rec complex, an $88 million project. Well over that $2 million project minimum that Mr. Fletcher referred to in Kitchener. I'm thinking about what will be on the walls of our complex when it opens, or slightly thereafter, perhaps. And we have budget deliberations coming up annually, this time nearing the end of 2026. I would be curious for the next council if they might be able to see something in there, some different options in terms of ways that community art could come into that that space.
Thank you very much, Councillor Deacon. Anything else from members of council? Seeing nothing, Monsieur Godin, Monsieur Dagenet, I think it's a fair statement to look at that when the next budget deliberations come in to see, what are some of the options, and as part of the strategic plan to see how we can further that file along. Absolutely. Merci beaucoup pour votre temps. Thank you very much for your time and for your insight and for the beautiful work you do, supporting development and good balanced communities. Thank you so much for your time. Merci beaucoup. Okay, moving to item 9, delegations, petitions, we have none, and we're going to go to item 10. So with the exception of item F, motion that all items listed under consent items be received as presented, and this is moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Lauren. Call for the vote. All in favor?
You got to put the original on the table, then move the item F, right?
I thought because we did it in the agenda.
Yeah, since it was done at number
Yeah.
4, we're okay this
Yeah.
way. Thanks.
Yeah, I took a shortcut. So again, with the so we have the motion on the table. Just call for the vote. All in favor? And passed. And so we're going to go to item F right now. We received the Stormwater Annual Report, and it was really for council to receive the report. I certainly have a few questions, and I believe Councillor Armstrong may have a few questions as well, and any other members of council.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes?
Would you like to put it on the table first?
Yes, yes. So to put it on the table, motion to put ISSW 2025 Stormwater Annual Report, motion to receive the report, c'est ça. This is moved by Councillor Lawrence, seconded by Councillor Deacon. It's on the table, so questions, comments, amendments. So I have a few questions for staff. If I recall correctly, in last year when we received this, we were supposed to be getting a monitoring plan. And so this year in the report, we're still waiting for the monitoring implementation. And so there was, in the report, it was saying that there was some budget and safety access, Monsieur Bourgon. Is it possible for us to get some sort of implementation plan of when that's going to get done, and what are the impacts of not doing it? Because it's the second year where we have that same thing come back.
Well, there's several items that are back as its previous inspection. So that's the reason why it's still part of the report. If there's the safety issues, if there's some, they were addressed or will by staff. From part of the inspection, the type of the inspection, unless something's really specific.
Moi, pardon, M. Bourgon, moi, de quoi je parlais ici, c'est le monitoring, parce qu'il y a certains qu'on n'avait pas accès. There was no safe access to the ponds, and so we were not monitoring them because we were trying to come up with a plan for safe access.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood your question.
Okay.
But in that aspect, no, it was not done part of their 2025. In 26, we did hire a consultant to work with us on different aspects of things. One, to build up a budget or a capital plan for our stormwater system. So it's also an update to the exercise that we did in 2018. That exercise will also help us to establish the user fee system. So as to date, there's nothing that was done to improve the access to monitor some of those ponds.
Okay, so should I be concerned that we're not monitoring them?
At this point, there's no risk or no concern for council. We are it's still a brand new ECA. We're still working with it. There's lots of back and forth with the ministry. So at this point, there's no concern to be flagged to council.
So the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks is aware that we're not monitoring those right now because
we're submitting the same report that was presented to council was submitted
Okay.
to the ministry as well.
Okay, parfait. And so the consultant that you referred to, that's being hired to develop a capital plan, will address this access piece as
Well,
part
it
of the
will,
plan?
it will address any improvement that would need to be done in our stormwater system.
Okay,
And then it's going to be a matter of like the priorities and which project gets addressed first.
yeah, that would be part of
Yeah.
regular deliberations. So this consultant and capital plan will come before the 2027 budget?
We're hoping so, but there's no guarantee it will be.
Okay, I want to reemphasize, like, my concern that, again, I'm not an expert in this, but I just want to know, are there risks from a community perspective in
At
terms
this
of these
point,
ponds?
no. If there's a major risk, it would be flagged today to council,
Okay,
not simply part of our formal report that way.
okay. Okay, any other questions from members of council on this? Councillor Armstrong?
Yeah, a couple of questions, Mr. Mayor. We've just updated, or we're in the process, of updating the sewer systems on, stormwater systems on Notre Dame. And do we have any records, or do we have any indicating that the upgrades will in fact be effective? What I'm looking for is like a before and after or whatever. Do we have any data on that?
Monsieur Bourgon?
Through Mr. Mayor, well, we don't have nothing prior to construction in state of, we can only compare the size of the piping and how inadequate they were. So that would be our benchmark. So we're designing for proper flow moving forward, or at least what we can forecast in future flows.
Merci, Monsieur Bourgon. Councillor Armstrong?
Our stormwater management ponds have been problematic in many cases. When they are built, do we issue permits for the actual construction of the stormwater management pond? And do we demand any documentation from the developers post-actual construction of the stormwater management ponds?
Monsieur Bourgon?
Well, there's two answers to your question. It depends when. In the past, the ministry was issuing every approval for the stormwater pond and putting their own requirements. So the municipality had no say on how it's designed, what had to be done. So it was at the end, it gets transferred. Now, for the last 2 years, the municipality do oversee and approve all part of our CLIECA, which we're now the approval authority. So moving forward, it's under our authority, but we put the own requirement on the land developer to make sure that they do all the samplings and everything's done and it's put back at the original state when it gets transferred to the municipality.
Okay. My last question is, and I probably would have noticed it in our discussions on asset management during our last budget sessions, but do we have an asset management reserve specifically for our stormwater management ponds?
Monsieur Bourgon?
True, Mr. Mayor, yes, we do.
Okay.
It's, as council can see, or probably know, it's well underfunded, but we are working our way to increase that funding towards that asset.
Okay. Thank you. And just to follow up on one of the questions Councillor Armstrong brought up. So just from my understanding, fait qu'un développeur comme tel, est-ce que maintenant ils doivent nous donner, like there's some securities that are with us to make sure that they deliver the pond the way it's supposed to be?
There's securities. It's under our own approval, so they need to provide us with all the monitoring that they're doing throughout the development of their or the entire property, entire subdivision.
Okay.
Donc c'est à la fin que tout est complété. Ils doivent nettoyer le temps de rétention avant de faire le transfert à la municipalité, ainsi que toutes les inspections qui ont été complétées durant ce temps-là.
OK, formidable. Merci beaucoup. Autre question des membres du Conseil? Non? Okay, alors, so as just to receive the report, we have the motion on the table, call for the vote, all in favor, and pass. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Bourgon, pour les questions additionnelles. Bien apprécié. Alors, on tombe à l'item 11, item 11, et comme on a dit, on va passer à l'item F en premier. That council receive a report LIB 2026-01 dated June 8th, 2026 for information purposes. Before I hand over the floor, oh yes, I'm going to hand over the floor. Alors, bonsoir. Excusez-moi. Laurie, pleasure to have you here with us. Yes, thank you. And France, pleasure to have you with us. Je vous cède la parole.
Bonsoir, Monsieur le maire, membres du Conseil. Merci beaucoup pour cette plateforme de vous présenter la valeur de la bibliothèque. Donc, je vous présente Laurie Clément, présidente du Conseil d'administration de la bibliothèque, et moi-même, France Guin-Couture. Donc, pourquoi la bibliothèque est importante? La bibliothèque joue un rôle central dans l'infrastructure de notre communauté. Comme vous savez, elle favorise l'alphabétisation, l'apprentissage et les échanges sociaux. Bien plus qu'un simple lieu de prêt de livres, elle constitue un espace communautaire chaleureux et apprécié de tous. Elle enrichit la qualité de vie des nouveaux arrivants, comme des résidents de longue date, tout en rendant notre région plus accueillante et attrayante.
Our library supports the community through many programs and services. We support early literacy and school readiness. We annually award elementary children, grade 6, with an award of excellence for either English or French, depending on their first language. We provide lifelong learning for residents of all ages, access to technology, Wi-Fi, 3D printing, and online learning. We're helping to reduce social isolation through our events, our clubs, and our shared experiences. And we also have a lovely community garden that we share with the local food bank when the produce comes available. We're a cooling center in the heat when folks need it.
Notre bibliothèque est ouverte à tous. Nous sommes un service quotidien de la population bilingue de la communauté, en pleine croissance, en proposant des programmes et des services destinés aux enfants, aux adolescents, aux adultes, aux personnes âgées et aux nouveaux arrivants. Nos services et nos locaux sont accessibles et accueillants pour tous. Nous sommes un lieu de rencontre dédié à l'apprentissage, à la culture et aux échanges.
Financial impact. So the library, in addition to the other impacts that we talked about, also has a financial impact on the community. The Ontario Library Service, in cooperation with the Nordic Centre at Algoma University, has a lovely toolkit that takes data from each community across Ontario and produces the economic value of the library. So they take our population, the number of visits, the funding, and 5 key sectors, and comes up with an economic value for the community. In our case, for every dollar invested in the library by the municipality, there is a return on investment of $6, which is in line with other libraries in the province. And for each dollar invested, the Russell residents receive a benefit of $273.
En 2024, nous vous avons présenté le plan stratégique 2024 à 2028. Maintenant, on va vous faire une mise à jour. Le premier pilier stratégique, c'est l'innovation. Comme vous savez, nous avons obtenu un nouvel emplacement pour la succursale d'Embrun. Nous optimisons l'expérience des usagers grâce à la machine au kiosque auto-emprunt. Nous avons un abonnement à une nouvelle base de données d'apprentissage en ligne, LinkedIn, et les usagers peuvent apprendre de façon autonome. Nous avons ajouté aussi des nouvelles imprimantes 3D.
The second pillar is growth. So the focus of the current board of directors has been the 4 pillars, but growth in particular. Some may not know that the library is actually a separately incorporated organization with its own board of directors. There's 7 directors, myself and Lisa Deacon, who's an excellent board member as the council on our board. So growth has been an emphasis for us. We have about 4,300 active users, which is a growth of 23% since last year. We have 60,000 roughly visits, again, 8% increase over last year. So the idea is constantly to move that bar forward. We have the number of items that are borrowed in our library is quite large for a library our size, so that's a positive indicator. We also have the website visits, quite a few, 15,000 participants in our various activities.
Le pilier numéro 3, c'est la durabilité. Donc, afin d'encourager le perfectionnement individuel et l'apprentissage en groupe, nous avons offert 10 ateliers. Et nous avons ramassé pour notre levée de fonds annuelle Adoptez-moi 7 592 $ qui sont réinvestis par la population dans la collection. Nous avons 18 partenaires communautaires et nous avons sécurisé 2 subventions pour la nouvelle succursale d'Embrun, comme vous le savez déjà, Valoris et Desjardins. Et nous avons 595 heures en bénévolat.
The fourth pillar is service delivery. That's, again, very important for the board. We know that we are, through surveys, a safe and welcoming space for youth and families. We have story time for children and youth. Back to the council, we celebrate local authors. We have a place for artists in the community. Daycare visits, museum passes. We go to senior living facilities to bring books when they need. Fair number of people come in to use the internet. Radon monitors. We put a fair amount of emphasis on local genealogy, to the local history. And to better serve the community, the board recently voted. We have a good, hours per week is very good, but we recently voted to have the library open 4 more days per year in order to better access the growing community. Provide better access.
Notre dernier accomplissement a été le lancement de notre nouvelle image de marque. Donc, le 7 mai dernier, nous avons eu l'inauguration à la succursale Russell et je suis fière de rapporter que 259 résidents se sont joints à nous pour célébrer la bibliothèque. Et nous avons reçu aussi une belle couverture médiatique dans le reflet.
Okay. So thank you for having us present to you. The Board of Directors really wanted to take the opportunity to underline the value of the library to the community. So we wanted to highlight for you that your continued support enables us to continue to provide sustainable services for our residents, safe, welcoming, and accessible public spaces, which are important. Innovate in programming and technology. We do quite a bit, but we can always do more. Expand our partnerships with businesses and community organizations, which has significantly increased in the past few years. Enhance technology and digital literacy. That's a focus for us in the next couple of years, for sure. Strengthen fundraising, sponsorship, and donor engagement. The new Embrun branch is an exciting opportunity to engage donors. We've got all kinds of really interesting ideas for how to engage donors. And once we complete that, then we'll echo that same in the Russell branch. And finally, with your support, we continue to adapt spaces and services to meet the community needs through surveys, word of mouth, etc. So,
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. So on behalf of council, thank you to Laurie and to the entire board. The presentation really reinforces, that libraries are not just about going to get a book, but there's so much more, such a big part of our community, and we truly appreciate the work the board of directors does and the staff at the library. And we're very excited to see the project here in Embrun move forward. Having been on the library board and having tried to tackle that one, it's nice to see it moving forward. So very excited about that. I'd like to, without putting you on the spot, Councillor Deakin, because you're on the board there, anything to add?
Thank you. I'm very proud of the board's work this term, and it's been a real pleasure to be collaborating with such active, interested members of the community, all of whom are volunteers, save for myself, and really working hard on the governance piece. And as our community grows, making sure that the governance and the pillar of the library in our community grows in its own right as well. And from this presentation, when I was looking at this, there were a couple of things that came to mind for me. I was very privileged to have the support of the library board this year to go and attend the Ontario Library Association Super Conference in Toronto. There was a lot, one of the days, I mean, it was 3 or 4 days. I was there quite a while, very immersed in library land, as one of the library staff calls it. On the final day, the focus was on board governance, and it was really a boot camp for board members to attend. And there was so much focus there on advocacy and the work of the library to be advocating for itself, fundraising for itself, seeking grants for itself. So when I think about this growth that we're seeing, the board that is stepping up, that seems ready to take on challenges like this, that's a big part of what's on my mind, is how the board is establishing itself in our community and doing meaningful partnership building, fundraising, and advocacy work. And I'll give an example because I also sit on, we have a newly established fundraising grants, is there another word? Fundraising and grants subcommittee of the board, which I have the pleasure to sit on. And we reached out to the Township and said, hey, we could use some support seeking grants. We know that there are grants that the library is eligible for, that the municipality is not eligible for. Can you help us out? And the administration said, of course. You can have access to the resources that you need to seek grants on behalf of the library, which was really fantastic and showed, to me, it was an example of a step forward as the library as a separate entity from the municipality, very heavily supported by the municipality and mandated to be supported by the municipality, but also stepping into its own right as an advocacy, an organization that's able to advocate for itself and seek funding for itself as well, which benefits the municipality and our community at large, of course. So where am I going with this? I think as I look at what the future of the library is and the next term of the board and of council, that's something that's on my mind, is how to continue to foster the leadership that is coming from the library and ensure that the municipality is there as a partner to continue supporting where that leadership is stepping up to the benefit of everyone.
Thank you very much. Laurie?
I should have mentioned that it's been a pleasure working with the municipal staff. Richard, Sébastien, and company have been really good helping us to work through sometimes the complexities of municipality and the library, and it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear that. In my years of experience with the library board, it wasn't always like that, and it's really been moving into that more of a cohesive and teamwork and collaborative approach. And I think it's crucial for the success both of the library and from the municipal perspective in terms of the funding that's applied to the library. And doing presentations like this goes a long way as well to make sure that council's aware of all the good work that's happening at the libraries. And so I think it's very positive. The only comment I would ask is, as a numbers person, I love to see when you're giving stats or anything, you're talking about growth, to show us that growth through maybe the previous numbers. And so moving forward, that would be nice to have. But kudos on all the work. Anything else from members of council? Thank you. Anything from the staff perspective, Monsieur Godin?
Merci, Mr. Mayor. No, but I just want to echo Laurie's comments. It's a pleasure working together. I meet with France every month, and we're working hard to build that relationship and to continue improving it. So it's good to hear the comments.
Excellent. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Hein? Bien apprécié. Et puis encore une fois, s'il vous plaît, passez mes salutations à toutes. To all the board, et on apprécie vraiment le travail qui est fait à ce niveau-là. Merci bien. All right, thank you. We're going to move to item A, 11A. Alors que le Conseil prenne connaissance du rapport CSAS AM 2026-01 daté du 8 juin et que le Conseil approuve l'initiative de l'administration visant à lancer un processus concurrentiel de demande de proposition, DP, pour le programme d'assurance municipale de la municipalité, incluant un modèle d'approvisionnement combiné courtier-assureur conformément à la politique d'approvisionnement. Quelque chose à rajouter là-dessus, M. Dagenet? Non. C'est pas trop compliqué, mais c'est comme je fais avec ma propre assurance. Je pense que c'est bon d'aller shopper de temps en temps pour s'assurer qu'on a le meilleur produit pour notre communauté. Questions, commentaires? Councillor Lauren?
And just from reading it, I just want to make sure I'm confirming that this is exclusive of the salary benefit insurance program, correct?
Monsieur Dagenet?
Yeah, that does, sorry, that does not include the salary and benefits, the benefits. It's a difference in
Like general benefits of the employees, correct?
Correct.
That's a separate one that would come back at a
This
later
is for
date.
liability.
Yeah, okay, just making sure.
For
Thank you.
assets.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions on this? No? Merci beaucoup. Alors, on tombe à l'item B. Council receives report ISWAT 2026-03 dated June 8th, 2026, and approve the proposed amendment to License of Occupation and Water Supply Agreement dated February 16th, 2008, and that the Executive Director of Planning and Infrastructure Services is also authorized to sign the agreement. This would come into effect in 2027. Anything to add, Monsieur Bourgon?
Rapidement, je peux mentionner au Conseil que la Ville d'Ottawa a revu sa structure de frais pour la facturation de l'eau. Donc, dans ce processus, ils ont consulté l'administration, puis on en est venu à avoir au moins un frais fixe ou une définition vraiment pour la municipalité. All the residents were typically charged by tier, so as shown in the example of the report. But moving forward, we'll have a specific invoicing. The structure is going to be much simpler. So the amendment is really to change the definition in the current agreement.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Bourgon. There was quite a bit of work and some meetings around that. Ideally, we were hoping to get a distributor type of rate rather than a wholesaler rate. But the wholesale rate that we did get still manages to maintain us more or less in terms of overall cost. And so I think that's a positive accomplishment on that. Councillor Lauren?
The one figure I don't see in here is what's their residential rate compared to what we were getting in the high volume rate? Is it higher or lower?
Merci, Councillor Lauren. Monsieur Bourgon? It comes out to the same ones you had.
I want to say it's pretty much the same rate. There's not really, it's really for us, it's one, it's a flat fee, if I can use that term. There's not the tiers that as shown in the appendix.
Yeah, because previously the tiers within the first hour, we hit the top tier and
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So is the first chart that you're showing in the rate comparison, is that what would have been going forward the residential rate if we were classified as residential and under their new structure, or is that today?
Monsieur Bourgon?
So moving forward will be the last table.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see what.
It's the middle one. That would have been if we used the entirety of their tier as a multi-res or.
We're classified right now under their residential rate.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. They reclassified us under their multi-residential in error, and therefore we're moving to a new category called high volume user.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, which encompasses all of that. What I don't see is unless that's the first chart, is that the residential rate? That we're, like the comparison to what we're being charged today, under their new structure, what would we have been charged under that rate?
Monsieur Bourgon?
I'll have to go back to compare the exact rates.
Because I'm just trying to see why we were bumped into the higher category, and then we move into our own category, but the own category just leaves us flat.
That's exactly
Well,
what
that's the intent, is just to have a simplified invoicing.
Yeah, so the option, if we would have stayed under their new tiered system, it would have ended up costing more. And so
Exactly.
this ends up breaking even, basically.
Okay, I don't think-
Ultimately,
Compared to
just
the
1 second.
residential, sorry.
Yeah, so ultimately, we were able to break even as opposed to go up, but it's still not ideal. But Monsieur Bourgon, maybe as a follow-up, we can answer
It's
Councillor
the-
Lawrence.
Yeah, the rates itself compared to the residential, it's by a point compared when we look at the two charts. It's really simplifying the invoicing.
Yeah, and I think the comparison, I don't have it here in front of me, but the comparison it does show what it is now, what residents are getting now, or is it showing what we had before? I just don't have it here in front of me to answer Councillor Lauren's point.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have in front of me the new rate structure that they're proposing for 2027.
Yeah, so I think Councillor Lauren, if I understand correctly, that's what you'd like to see, just to see.
Well, I'm being asked to approve an amendment to keep a status quo. But status quo to what? That doesn't it doesn't make sense to me where we're saying we're gonna move from their new amount of multi-residential that we shouldn't have been multi-residential, right? So we're moving from $394,294 down to $308,163, right, under the high volume consumer rate, right? So we're going down. So it looks great, but what is their actual residential rate that if nothing had changed would we have been paying under our current structure?
Yeah, so M. Bourgon, quand on a commencé à travailler sur le projet, on avait vu les montants et puis l'impact que ça nous aurait donné. Puis ça nous garantit le prix qu'on a en ce moment. Puis je pense que ce que le conseiller Lauren veut, c'est de voir qu'est-ce que ça aurait été si on l'aurait pas eu.
Well, it would have been the structure that we see at the 324.
No, but that's that's the multi-residential rate.
Yeah,
What's the residential
That's
rate?
what we've been,
That's what we've had.
without any amendment, we would have fallen into that.
I get that, but we did fall under, we were under structure A, which was residential. They moved us to structure B, which is multi-residential. We want to now fall under structure C, multi-residential, because we went back and forth with them. But had they just kept us at residential, what would that have looked like?
Mr. Bourgon?
I would have to see the exact number.
Yeah, so that's
per
what we can
meter.
do as a follow-up.
But also, we now have our own definition. We're now on their radar. We're now part of the dialogue. They can see, like, we have our own line item, if I can use.
And we
that
should
term.
have. We're their highest
one at a
single
time,
volume
one at a
user.
Donc, le bénéfice de cet amendement nous permet maintenant d'avoir notre propre définition en tant que consommateur unique de la Ville d'Ottawa.
Sauf que aussi, il y a des grosses usines qui peuvent avoir le même système.
Potentiellement, mais c'est
Ouais.
aussi venu à jour grâce à nos discussions
C'est
avec
ça.
l'administration de la
Ouais.
Ville d'Ottawa.
Okay, Councillor Lauren, just a final point, just to make sure that we have a good follow-up on this. So just to have a clear line of sight on what it would have cost had it stayed exactly the same, is that correct?
Had our designation stayed as residential, whether it was tiered or not, what that would have looked like, unless that's what you're telling me the top structure piece is.
I believe that is.
That was my
yes.
understanding in their new revision, starting in 2027, we would have fall under that structure, the fact that we're using so much water.
That's correct. So that's my understanding too, but just we can take that back, clarify it as a follow-up.
So just so I'm clear, the only benefit is we don't have multiple tiers in the structure, and we have our own definition, but in terms of rates or anything like that, our residents aren't going to see any benefit because it's the same pricing. It's the same amounts.
That, Monsieur Godin?
Right, merci, Mr. Mayor. So I just wanted to confirm, so you're right. But the exercise from the City of Ottawa wasn't to find a benefit for us, right? They're reviewing their fee structure. And with the revision, we were ending up paying more than we were paying before. So they made that adjustment, they created that that they've identified a fee specific for us so that we don't have that increase.
To pay more.
So that we keep status
Okay.
quo as far as what it would have costed us.
Completely understand that. That I get. I guess that brings up an even larger question is how can they have set that without having gone through an amendment to our contract or to our agreement that allows them to change us categories without any consideration from the township? Like, how can they go ahead and move us to a different category
Mr.
on their
Goulet?
own?
Wait, Mr. Mayor, so there is we have the report now in front of us to approve it. If council chooses to refuse to.
But before the Ottawa Council approved their structure and put us in multi-residential, how did it get to that point? How were we not, how can they do that outside of our contract? To force us to have to do an amendment today? I find that astonishing that they can go ahead and make changes like that without our consultation, and we're their largest single user of their water system. So I just find that very odd that we were excluded from that process if we were, based on what I'm understanding, or we would have never approved or recommended us to be under that multi-residential. So I'm just concerned that we were not engaged properly in that process. I agree now we should have our own. We should have had our own right from the beginning on the onset of that project and had lower rates to begin with. So I'm gonna vote in favor of the amendment. I just find it astonishing that we had to do this and they didn't consult us with the original. We could have done it right in their original contract.
So I'm not sure about the original contract piece because I was not involved in it, but I can tell you that there was discussion with their staff teams, and Mayor Sutcliffe and myself also discussed it, and where we did try to push the creation of a distributor rate because that's truly what we are, because we're paying our own infrastructure as well with that. And so the reality is we're a very small piece of, as big as we are, we're still a very small piece of their entire water system, and we are a little bit at their mercy at that sense. Mr. Godin, is that a fair assessment?
Oui, merci, Mr. Mayor. So, well, I mean, you've confirmed what I was going to mention, that we were consulted and we did have a lot of engagement with the City of Ottawa. And no, we can't speak to the original agreement because that was signed back, I want to say 2010 or around
2008.
2008.
Is what it says in the report.
Yeah, our discussions were productive, and like Mr. Mayor said, there's no distributor rate itself, but we still have that unique rate to us, which can allow them that flexibility or allow us to work together to make sure that stays within the goal of the agreement. Right?
But maybe I'm saying this wrong. Like, how did we get to the point where we needed an amendment? If we were working with them and we were in great talks with them and mayor to mayor and staff to staff, how did they pass something that put us into a multi-residential fee structure?
It's always been like that, Councillor Lauren.
We were residential. We were not multi-residential. So it hasn't been like that, Mr. Mayor. So I'm just concerned that we're in all these talks and we're talking about collaboration. They go ahead and pass something that affected us greatly, as you can see, from a rate perspective. Now we have to do an amendment and work with them for an amendment. So I'm just talking about the fact that we didn't have meaningful discussions then with them, so that they kept us in consideration, and they went ahead and made their rates and made that and bumped us categories without our input.
Well, at the end of the day, there was input, and there is an amendment here to address that change.
You're not getting it anyway. We'll move on.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Councillor. Okay, thank you, staff. All right. Ça, c'était l'item B. Alors, on s'en va à C. All right. So that council received report BLDG 2026-01 dated June 8th, 2026, and approved the addition of $90,000 to the building department's 2026 operational budget to be funded by the building department's reserve for departmental service delivery review. Chief?
Good evening. Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. So this evening, I'm presenting a report requesting your approval to undertake a service delivery review of the Township's building department. It's just been over 2 years since I've assumed oversight of the building department, and last fall, we completed the review of the building permits and the permit fees that was brought forward, and the proposed changes were approved by council at that time. The building department has never undergone an external review, and we believe the time is right to conduct this study. As outlined in the report, the review may identify opportunities to improve operational efficiency, enhance our processes, modernize our service delivery, and strengthen customer service in support of the residents, the contractors, and future growth of our community. Overall, this review will help ensure the township continues to provide accountable, compliant, financial sustainable building services while maintaining a high standard of public safety.
Thank you, Chief. I've got a few questions. Rationale for not including this in our 2026 budget?
In all honesty, it was during the budget process after we approved the budget where I reflected after council was talking or speaking about looking for efficiencies in our services, and it was an afterthought at that time for me to think of it to bring it forward now so that I can have potential information for the 2027 budget process.
Okay. And so is this matter urgent enough, or can we defer this to the 2027 budget process?
It could be deferred to the 2027 budget process.
Okay. Monsieur Dagenet, je ne suis pas sûr si c'est correct. In terms of the actual reserve, the reserve is healthy to fund this unexpected 90,000?
Yes, the reserve is, it can cover that.
Okay, and my last question. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Dagenet. Ma dernière question is, how did you determine 90K? Like, did we already figure out scope deliverables and implementation costs? Like, where does that 90,000 come from?
Yeah, good question, Your Worship. So looking through bids and tenders, I've seen other municipalities around our township size, a little smaller than our township. We're in the 40 to 60,000 range for their review.
Okay. Questions, members of council? Councillor Deacon?
If I heard that correctly, the buildings department has never had a service delivery review?
Specifically, as Your Worship,
Yeah,
yes,
go ahead.
specifically as the review of the building services within accordance with the Building Code Act.
Okay. I had similar questions to you, Mr. Mayor, in terms of the urgency of this versus looking at it in the 2027 budget. And a couple of the questions that I had that may inform me one way or the other is, are there other service delivery reviews being considered for other departments of administration, in which case I might want to see them bundled for cost efficiency as well?
Monsieur Godin?
Merci, Monsieur Mayor. Not at this point in time. We did go through a service delivery review. We did one in 2021 and another in 2023. They were a bit different scopes, different mandates. That's why they were close together. So at this point in time, no, there is not. I think, like Chief McBain said, this is really specific to around the building code and those different aspects, which is a bit of an explanation also as to why it's being done separately.
Thank you. Any other questions, members of council? Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, how do we fund the building department reserve? How do we build it up?
Thank you. Monsieur Dagenet?
Every year when there's a surplus for coming from the building department, it goes in that reserve. And when there's a deficit, then we go in the reserve to finance the operational budget of the building department.
And this is an operational reserve, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Follow up?
Yeah, I would prefer to push it back until the 2027 fiscal year and have a good look at that operational reserve and whatever before we make a decision.
Fair enough. We'll pull item C. Madame Camille-Laflamme. Thank you. Moving to item D. Recreation Complex Update. The council received reports PR 2026-09 dated June 8th, 2026 for information purposes. Madame Guittard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
J'ai-tu la bonne personne? là?
Oui.
OK, good.
Members of council. Why have I changed that much in 2 weeks? So we're happy to say that we're still on budget. We've been pushed by a week, so I need to confirm that. So it's November 2nd now. But I think it's no surprise with the magnitude of the project. There's always, if you have the smallest delay, it creates a domino effect on the whole building, unfortunately. But I think that the general contractor is very diligent and everybody is looking after our interest here. So I'm not too worried about that part. I think also maybe to mention that we've also made another grant application with the FCM, which is the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and I think Mr. Mayor was just at the last conference that was held last week. So I participated to a pre-application interview last week, so that's positive. FCM has a very extensive process when you make a grant application. So this was for, to their Sustainable Municipal Building Green Municipal Fund. So this is for our, because we're mostly all electric building. So we're hoping that we might be able to secure a fund, a grant from them. So if we are successful, we have a $8 million eligible cost. From that, we could get a loan of $5.6 million and a grant of $848,000. So the application is now being evaluated, and we should know in the next few weeks if the application will be accepted, and then there's another whole review process to the application. So that's positive.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Guittard. I want to publicly congratulate you and the team for the diligence around this project so far. A project with this length of time will always have some challenges in terms of timeline changes and budget overruns and so on. And I'm really proud to see that we're well within the contingency. And although a lot of, there's still possible surprises and so on, but I'm very, very happy to see the process and the status and looking forward to having another site visit at some point, if at all possible. And just to follow up on your point, yes, at the FCM conference this past weekend, had the opportunity to meet with Ms. Carly Stephen, program manager for the Green Municipal Fund regarding our application, and it's being evaluated. And fingers crossed that we get some positive feedback on that. So on that, I would open it to members of council. Councillor Lauren.
I guess I have a question for Monsieur Dagenet under the financial implications. Government grant funding in the amount of $9 million? I thought it was $10 million.
Monsieur Dagenet.
Yes, the other million is, they call it a holdback. So we're going to receive it when the project's going to be finished, so 45 days after. So that's why we haven't received $1 million. And this breakdown shows how we finance the $60 million. So,
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions, members of council? Seeing none, thank you. Merci beaucoup, Madame Guittard, bien apprécié. Moving to item E. The council receives PR 2026-10 dated June 8th, 2026, and approve an additional in-kind grant in the amount of $80 to the Russell Legion for the rental of the Russell Arena slab and their annual free Canada Day Community Pancake Breakfast to be held on July 1st, 2026. Anything to add, Madame Guittard?
No, thank you.
All right, so this is a no-brainer. Always happy to support the Legion and this pancake breakfast, which is a big hit every year. Anything to add, members of council? No, thank you. So we've already covered F. We move to item G. Alors, que le Conseil reçoive le rapport CSAS CL 2026-06 daté du 8 juin 2026 et que le Conseil approuve la modification proposée au règlement sur les comités 2022-123 afin de modifier l'annexe B6 pour établir les termes de référence du comité conjoint de vérification de conformité avec les municipalités participantes situées dans les limites des comtés unis de Prescott-Russell pour le mandat de 2026 à 2030 et que le Conseil autorise la greffière à procéder au processus de recrutement et de nomination conformément au mandat adopté. This is more or less housekeeping, but important as part of election readiness. Anything to add, Madame Camille-Laflamme?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, like you said, this is like every 4 years, we just have to renew and put the proper date, and if we change the mandate, but we didn't really, so just kilometers, how much they're paid, that changed a bit, and that's about it. So we want to proceed all together to save the cost.
Merci beaucoup. Questions, commentaires, membres du Conseil? No. Merci. We are moving to item H. And that's Development Charges Reduction Program application. So the Council receives report CAO 2026-04 dated June 8th, 2026, and 1, authorize the Chief Administrative Officer to submit an application to the Development Charges Reduction Program, DCRP, for eligible infrastructure projects that support housing development. 2, endorse an agreement in principle to reduce residential development charges by 30 to 50% for a period of 3 years as required by this program. 3, confirm that any development charge reductions shall only be implemented if the application is successful and a transfer payment agreement is executed with the province of Ontario. 4, direct staff to report back to council with a detailed financial analysis and proposed bylaw amendment should the application be approved. Monsieur Godin, anything to add?
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Maire. So just last week, the province announced this program. It's a DC reduction program in which, in exchange for municipalities reducing DCs by 30 to 50% for 3 years, the province is going to provide funding for up to 90% of costs for housing enabling projects. This was just released last week, and we're still in the fact-finding mode. We're meeting with Grant Match, our grant application experts. We're engaging with the province to ask questions where things are not clear. We don't have a complete financial analysis tonight for you, given that we've just had this program announced a few days ago. But the timeline to apply is 2 weeks from, or I think it's just under 2 weeks from today. On Friday, if I'm not mistaken, of next week. So I thought it's still urgent to at least have, I don't know that we need to have council's approval for this. There are a lot of applications that we can simply apply for as an administration. We're not committing any funds to anything. We're not committing to reducing our DCs. What we're doing is trying to get that opportunity to be able to participate in that program if it's deemed to be a good program for us. I did want to be safe and make sure I had a resolution on file in case that was a requirement with the application, because I think it would be, we don't want to miss this opportunity when the time comes. So with that, a lot of the details are in the report, so if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Monsieur Godin. So just to clarify, this is to support the mechanical wastewater plant, correct?
So that project would be a very high candidate. We met this morning with our grant application experts, and there could be more, and we can submit more than one project in one application. So we're still in the process of determining exactly what we're going to apply on, but definitely that's one of them that's going to be part of that application.
Okay, and ultimately, council will get to see a financial plan to determine the value of this and whether the partnership with La Nation, if we are going with the mechanical plant, the impact of it, and so on.
Exactly. So we're going to analyze all that and prepare that analysis. The next steps, submitting the application between now and next week. After that, there will, if we are selected or if we're successful with our application, there's going to be a TP, a transfer payment agreement to sign between the province and council. So, and the timelines they're presenting is August for that to be finalized, which would be a record for the province to be able to go through. But if that is in fact the case, we may need to have a special meeting to present that. And in that report to council, we would have that full analysis to be able to show a full picture of the agreement and how all the financial implications on our reserves, on the project, and discussions that are ongoing with Nation as far as if we're partnering on this application or not.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Councillor Deakin?
A couple of questions. I'm very cautious about this. From a municipal perspective, there's obviously a carrot being dangled as a person who pays taxes at all three levels of government. I do wonder how this is meant to make housing more affordable across our country. 30 to 50% or more DC reduction. I was looking at the program, the schedule one that was included in the agenda around application guidelines, and it referred to if you go further than 50%, it may be looked at even more favorably. So I'd like to ask, when we're looking at this recommendation, is it the administration's plan to intend to cap the reduction at 50%, or is administration entertaining going into this application with perhaps more than 50%?
Monsieur Godin?
So at this point, there's no decision yet on that, but we are entertaining it, given that the potential revenue, if we are going to be receiving 90% of certain projects, would far exceed that 50% reduction. So everything's on the table. Like I said, we're still looking into it and trying to understand better all the details of the program. But it hasn't been ruled out as a possibility, given that we've also heard that if we do exceed that 50%, it does increase the odds of having a successful application. So we're working with Grant Match as far as that strategy to see how we can best increase the odds of having a successful application.
Yeah, because we're looking at this as council and being asked to endorse the 30 to 50, but I understand that that's a bit more of a courtesy by administration at this point, and that it could be, what comes back could be more than 50 if the price is right.
I think if I understand correctly, Mr. Godin, we're endorsing the application to the program, but there will be a full financial feasibility analysis provided to council before we agree to moving forward with any agree to moving forward with the program or any changes to our DCs for this 3-year term. So it's just more or less to get us into the game, if you want, see if there is value for our community to do that. So if we can get, say as an example, funding for the 60 or 70% of our wastewater plant, up to 90%, then it makes sense to do that. But we'll get to have that opportunity to look at that in great detail before anything is committed. Correct, Mr. Gaudet?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
I have just
Go
one
ahead.
more follow-up question, if I may. When I was looking at the application guidelines, they were clearly prioritizing housing enabling infrastructure. One of my concerns when looking at this at first was, does our municipality, if we were to receive a windfall contribution for the the wastewater treatment plant, for example, does that put our other aspects of growth-related capital planning at risk? Because we would be getting a windfall for one particular project, but do we have the internal mechanisms and policies to ensure that other aspects of our capital planning are covered? And then that leads me to ask the question, when I look at the guidelines, it does mention community building infrastructure. It seems to run the gamut of capital planning, really, which leads me to wonder why we don't just submit our entire capital plan and say, here's the stuff that we know you want, which is to invest in, which is housing enabling infrastructure, but here is our entire plan. I'm just really curious why that, maybe that's a question for Grant Match, why that wouldn't be part of the strategy is to simply, all of our capital planning is public information. Here you go. And here's what we think you want to invest in. But I don't want those other aspects of capital planning, of our capital plans, to be compromised or put at risk by this.
Monsieur Josée?
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Maire, and that's a great question and comment, and we are considering all services that are included in our DCs to be looked at to see what will be eligible, not limiting it necessarily. When we prepared this report to council, we really had the wastewater treatment plant in mind. It's definitely the biggest opportunity to go get the most funding possible. Following our discussion this morning with Grand Match, there are still a lot of things to validate and to make sure, but we do understand that the scope is a lot larger and could implicate different departments. For sure, there are some projects that wouldn't be eligible just based on the fact that they've already started. The rec complex, for example, is a large portion of our DC study. It's already begun construction years ago, so that wouldn't be an eligible project. But still, we're not limiting our scope to look at simply the wastewater treatment plant and wastewater in general. We're going to be looking at all possibilities.
Thank you. Councillor Doran?
So you say that the project, like the rec complex as an example, which we discussed both pre and post construction development charges in the past to help offset the cost of the project. Does that mean that because it's a quote-unquote ineligible project to this program, that it would still be facing a reduction for 3 years of like a reduced development charge, and therefore have an impact to that project?
Monsieur Godin?
Merci, Mr. Maire. So it wouldn't necessarily impact the delivery of the project. What it could, to your first question, yes. All service, when we're talking about a 30 to 50% reduction, it would be across all services. So the DC rates would cut in half basically across all board. So there would be some work that would need to be done to analyze how do we cover that loss for departments that maybe aren't receiving funding. Where it will make a lot of sense for the township is if whatever we're collecting is more than what it's costing us and reduce the revenues. There might be some short-term implications on reserve balances, where there could be some negative reserve balances that are covered from other much more healthy reserves. That's always, but when I say we're going to come back to council with a full financial analysis, that's one of the things that that we're going to have to be looking at to see how a grant in one section of the township could impact a shortfall in another, and to make sure that we're able to strategize to make up for that.
Thank you.
Well, this has huge implications then for all municipalities. Like, we talk about growth paying for growth, but growth isn't going to pay for growth for the period of time that they're talking about. And then should those costs come down for that 3-year period, well, then what is the expectation after that? Are they going to look to reduce even further to help, I guess, spur more housing? Which, again, I'm sure there hasn't been a single commitment from any developer across the province that says, well, we're gonna reduce our fee to build this house by 15 to 30, or by 30 to 50% based on the development charge cost, right? Or, you know what I mean? Like, if the development charge is $35,000 and we're going to reduce that to $15,000, right? Is the person buying that house going to see the $20,000 reduction is the question. And if they're not, then to me, this makes no sense from the province imposing this on municipalities. It's very frustrating.
That's correct. That program is lacking some of those aspects. You're quite right to point
You
it out.
think?
We asked those questions when we were in Toronto last time. So they were very short on detail or the ability to enforce that reduction. Bottom line, I do think it's important that we, from our perspective, is that we will see a feasibility plan, and if that reduction gives us a net benefit at the end, I think that's also an important opportunity for our community in that sense. Councillor Armstrong?
I have to follow on from some of Councillor Laurent's concerns. I'm looking on your schedule on page 21, outcomes and indicators, and we reduced the municipal DC rates. But does this indicate that it's section 10, outcomes and indicators? Does this indicate that if we don't have year-over-year increases in the number of building permits issued within that period of time, or the number of units that receive DC relief, then even though we've reduced this, we won't get any grants? And to what extent is the year-to-year increase? I mean, we've had some years where we've actually had decreasing number of permits issued. Yes, generally they're on the increase, but there have been exceptions to that. What happens if we have an exception? What's the risk to the township? We give up the DC charges and get nothing back out of it. That is going to be a significant impact, not only on the wastewater treatment plant in the future, but on the financing of the rec complex that is ongoing now.
Everything else, yeah, absolutely, and that's why the financial analysis has to be done, and we need to have guarantees as well of that funding. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know that there are metrics that are required as part of that reduction, other than that they want the 30 to 50%. From our perspective, the ministry is just betting that will spur more development. But from our perspective, I don't know that that's something that's required of us to demonstrate. Monsieur Godet?
Merci, Mr. Mayor. From our understanding, that's the goal of the program. It's to initiate more construction. And those are some estimates that they're asking us to provide. If we do move forward with a reduction in DCs, how many more units do we expect to build more? Which would, I mean, there's calculations we can make, but it's all estimates. We've seen no indication as far as, we understand the program that it's not dependent on those. We have to show that the projects that we're delivering are intended to bring that housing enabling, which essentially is well established in the DC study. But there's no mention. The outcomes and indicators is showing what they're attempting to achieve, but it's not presented as a requirement that we achieve those to be able to have that funding. When we signed that TPA, our understanding is that there's going to be a commitment from the government to give us X amount of money, and there's going to be a commitment from the part of the township to reduce our DCs by
for 3 years. Councillor Lauren?
Have we spoken with our development community to see if there's even the capacity to increase development? Like if the objective is to increase development, yet you have developers who are already at full capacity with all the projects they have ongoing, 1 or 2 houses a year isn't going to make a difference for us to lose X amount of dollars in development charges for a program that isn't going to benefit us in the long run.
Yeah, but the only value that we're looking to benefit is to get more money grant money from the government to pay for the infrastructure, so that the balance is on the positive in the offset of those reduced DCs. At the end of the day, if the program that the government is putting together doesn't achieve whatever % that they're looking for, it doesn't really impact us as long as we get paid for that grant that they promise us that offsets that reduction for us.
But are
Correct,
we able
Mr.
to
Godet?
use that grant money for anything
Well, within
that's
our,
being reduced, or just the approved project?
Monsieur Godet?
Through Mr. Mayor. So it would be through the approved projects. So whatever project we apply for, if we get the funding, that's what we have to use it towards, like any other grant that we would receive.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we have a project let's again, use the one that you've identified, that one gets funding. But what about the additional fire vehicles that we are going to require, the road infrastructure, the recreation infrastructure? Those all get reduced by 30, 40, 50%. Those costs come out of a different pool than water, wastewater, and storm management money comes from. Those are user fee based. This is taxation based. So how do we offset the the increase of, or the reduction of cost on a taxation base versus a user base?
Monsieur Godet?
Merci, Mr. Mayor. So it's actually not user fee or a taxation base, it's all DCs, right? So it's all builders paying into that.
No, I get the DC component of it.
Yeah.
One at a time.
But the offset, if from a development charge perspective, if I'm getting $50 less on development charges, and I need to now offset that cost for a fire truck, that cost is coming out of taxation. If I need to offset that cost for a water, sewer, or storm management cost, it's going to come out of a user fee based. I'm going to increase rates, right? So it does have a taxation versus water effect when we're talking about development charges that are going to be reduced and who's going to pay for those shortfalls.
Monsieur Godet?
Merci, Mr. Mayor. So potentially, and that's one of the questions that we're looking into, and that will be included in the financial analysis.
Exactly.
So
Well,
it could be from taxation or user fees, or it could be from future DCs. It's really not clear in the program guidelines. So those are definitely things that will need to be crystal clear in that TPA. What it is, it's really, we're foregoing DC revenues, but we're receiving a lot of revenues for DC-related projects. So the feeling that we're getting when we're looking into this, I mean, both the province and the federal are putting each, I don't know if it's each the same amount, but a total of $8.8 billion for this growth. So you're right that it's not growth that's paying for growth, but it's really, it's funded. It's not going to be, like there's a lot of money coming in, right? And just in the example that we presented here, so it's a $100 million project, and that might completely change depending on what projects we apply for. It might be more or it might be less, but there's a potential for 90 million in revenues, and it would cost us 15 million in lost revenue. I understand your point about who's going to cover that 15 million, but it's just it's a big opportunity that warrants, in our opinion, at least an application to have that extra details to be able to show.
exactly. And at the end of the day, we're going to see all the financials. We'll see a plan before we approve anything. Correct. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. I think we spoke to that one enough. We'll move on to item 12, reports from investigator ombudsman. We don't have any. Item 13, notice of motion. So there's a notice of motion from Councillor Lauren, a reduction of speed on County Road 3, also known as Notre Dame in Embrun. For a reading of that, Madame Camille Laflamme or Councillor Lauren?
I can do that, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
merci beaucoup.
So we have it on the board.
Merci.
Sorry. So this is moved by Councillor Jamie Laurin and seconded by Councillor Lisa Deakin. And like you said, Mr. Mayor, it's reduction of speed on County Road 3, also known as Notre Dame Street in Embrun. Whereas Council for the Corporation of the Township of Russell recognizes that excessive vehicle speeds present a significant public safety concern for residents, pedestrians, cyclists, school children, and motorists throughout the municipality. And whereas residents have expressed concerns regarding speeding on Notre Dame Street in Embrun between Saint Thomas Road and the boat launch location east of Saint Thomas Road. And whereas lower vehicle speeds have been demonstrated to improve road safety, reduce the severity of collisions, and enhance the quality of life within residential and urbanized areas. And whereas Council wishes to work collaboratively with the United Counties of Prescott-Russell to improve road safety and address community concerns regarding speeding. Therefore, be it resolved that Council formally requests that the United Counties of Prescott-Russell maintain the 60 km/h speed limit on County Road 3, also known as Notre Dame Street in Embrun, from Saint Thomas Road to just past the boat launch, where the speed limit changes to 70 km/h.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Camille Laflamme. So this is a notice of motion, so we'll leave it at that. Will be discussed at the next council meeting. We move to item 14, public questions on meeting of the day. So questions must be in relation to items on the agenda. For asking questions, please fill in your name, address on the sign-in sheet. If you wish to receive a response from a member of council or staff, please leave a phone number or email on the sheet. State only the name before asking your questions, and questions submitted in advance will be read out loud after the questions from members of the public in attendance are done. And disclaimer, by asking any questions during the council meeting, you are consenting to be part of a live broadcast and the official public recording of the proceedings. So again, these are, if you have any questions pertaining to everything that was covered on the agenda this far, the discussion on the notice of motion will have its own question period afterwards. So any questions from members of the community? Seeing none? So you're all here for the other item, I guess. Okay. All right. Okay, good. Excellent. So we'll move on to item 15. Members of council, before I proceed on item 15A, did you want to have a 5-minute break? Yeah, okay. So let's take a 5-minute pause for the cause. We'll resume at 10 to the hour. Thank you. Recognizes the importance of maintaining the surrounding rural and natural character over the long term through coordinated compatibility and transitioning planning measures, whereas the municipality as a local government, planning authority, and landowner and future developer of the industrial park lands has the responsibility to demonstrate compatibility, planning, transition, design, and long-term stewardship of these lands. Therefore, be it resolved that Council supports a proactive staff review of options, timeline development, and establishment of buffer and transition areas along the interface between the future industrial lands and adjacent rural residential uses prior to the development proceeding further west within the 417 Industrial Park, and that the review include consideration of various options for buffer areas that exceed minimum separation distance requirements and remain in agricultural naturalized landscape or open space form, including consideration of municipal buffer blocks, vegetated berms, naturalized landscape corridors, and retained agricultural transition areas, and that the review include consideration of the impact of various options of zoning and Russell Township 417 Industrial Park financial strategy. This is moved by Councillor Deacon, seconded by Councillor Armstrong, so it is on the table. Questions, comments, amendments? Councillor Deacon.
Thank you. I will be proposing an amendment to the original notice of motion that I submitted with Councillor Armstrong's support. It's based on input that I've received from residents on this motion over the past couple of weeks, as well as additional information that I received from staff. If I may, I'll proceed with reading the amendment.
Sure. Just give me 1 second. I'll just quickly check with council if there are any immediate questions or anything like that. Any questions or comments at this stage? Happy to hear an amendment. Okay. Councillor Deacon, go ahead.
So I would like to amend the final 3 paragraphs of the original notice of motion. It would be turned into 2 paragraphs, and I did send this along to the clerk earlier today if they would like to project it. So the final 2 paragraphs of the motion would be, therefore be it resolved that council supports open space zoning to the westernmost edge of Rue Emau turnaround, and that staff considers resident input alongside planning expertise in consideration of municipal buffer blocks, vegetated berms, naturalized landscape corridors, and retained agricultural transition and buffer areas. And that would be the end of the motion.
Okay, so I have an amendment moved and seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. So the amendment's on the table. Questions, comments? I've got a few questions. So first of all, for clarity, Monsieur Godet, Monsieur Bourgon, at this stage, we have a roundabout at ending at Aymar, and if I looked at the plans that I saw that were sent out, thank you very much. I'm not sure if we can zoom that in for the public, but there is a green area there. That green area, can you explain to me what that green area is? And again, just for the people viewing. And then we see the roundabout there. And so there is space that's just part of development space right now from the roundabout to the green space that Councillor Deacon in this amended proposition is looking at extending the green space, I gather, but just for clarity. So maybe if staff can kind of walk me through what this represents and what this means.
Through the zoning bylaw amendment that we will be proposing to council, that includes an open space in that area. That amendment or presentation was made at the planning committee last week. Part of the changes from the original draft issued about a month ago. In that the dimension of that open space does reflect what was presented to council last year for the road construction. So the setback from the residential homes along Eddy Road. And council did saw that in part of that report there was a financial impact of not selling those parts. So tonight we're reflecting now in the proposed zoning to implement as open space in those, on those lands.
Merci, Monsieur Bourgon. Comme c'est là, that open space, what does that zoning open space mean for the average person listening?
Donc, the open space, donc, ou la zone ouverte, c'est pour empêcher ou pour limiter les usages du terrain. So it will be to limit the use, so no industrial construction can be made on those lands.
Okay.
Once the zoning is approved.
Okay, so there would be no possible
No
development under an open zone for that space. And how wide is that space from, if I just look at the green area between, say, the back of one of the residential areas and the end of that green area? How wide is that?
It's approximately 70 meters.
70 meters. And I apologize in advance if this sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about, because I'm not sure I do in this particular case, but what is the typical buffer that's required for industrial level 1, which is what we have the rest of it zoned as?
It would be 70 meters from the building, from the rear of the building to residential lot line.
Okay, so this 70 meters ensures that this would be
Above, like beyond that
it would be
minimum
beyond,
requirement.
because technically it would have to be from whatever building eventually shows up in that industrial park to there. So we could have kept that land active as long as we had a buffer, the minimum buffer of the 70.
Yeah, and to be addressed at site plan.
At site plan for, okay, all right, thank you very much. And so in the amendment that's proposed here, we're asking, or council is entertaining the idea of limiting any development to the edge of the roundabout, if I understand that correctly. And so do we have an idea of how much more width that would be?
That's really roughly, approximately, because we haven't done the calculation. It's just presented now. It's about the same, so it's roughly a 16 acre. Similar to the zone that's already in green.
Mais on parle de
Just
70.
about 70 meters, approximately.
70 meters, and that would represent how many
About
acres?
16 acres.
16 acres.
Again, there's an asterisk on those measurements. I didn't do the surveying
No,
the
that's-
last hour.
That's fair. Okay, and right now, those are zoned that we can develop in that area all the way up until the green space, correct?
Yes, they have, like, right now, there's the proper designation, and, well, the zoning would be approved by council
Okay.
with the new zoning bylaw.
Okay, and I'll get to you in a second, Councillor Doran. My last question is, once we put that into open space, and so let's say we extend that and put that into open space, obviously there's lost revenue potential of selling that land, correct? But we could sell back that land to a local farmer, and they could farm that land. And if we were to change the zoning from open space to agriculture, could we recuperate some of the industrial land designations in other parts of the industrial park, or say to another part of the industrial park?
We'll have to look into more to see exactly what procedure, what step would need to be taken in that case.
Okay. Okay. I had Councillor Lauren with his hand up.
So just so I'm clear, the amendment is basically moving that green line right to the, I guess, the edge of the cul-de-sac. Is that all the way up and down from the top down to the bottom? Is that my
Councillor
understanding?
Yes, that's the spirit.
Yes.
Okay, and that represents approximately 70 additional meters from the current green line to the edge of the cul-de-sac. And that, currently, already, there would be about a 70-meter buffer, so now we're talking about a 140-meter buffer between residential and that cul-de-sac area. Correct?
True, Mr. Mayor, so that, yes, that's a proposal that's being presented to the council.
Okay. So I'm just trying to do the review here. So in that circumstance, is there, I know I just heard a proposal about putting up, like selling that off for agriculture or renting it for agriculture or whatever we do to help recoup. But once we do decide, if we decide to move that line over, and I believe I read somewhere or somebody sent something off to us about, is there a possibility of creating a tree line there?
Monsieur Bourgon?
There would be a possibility if we can come, like, depending on the direction of council or what options being looked at. So
Yeah.
it's always an option.
But if I understand correctly, Mr. Bourgon, like the fact of putting in a berm or putting vegetation or a berm with vegetation, that would be done at a later stage regardless?
It would, and we, and council did not take a proper position or une vraie position ou donner la directive d'aller avec à ce moment-ci, à ce niveau-là.
Fait que en ce moment, on n'a pas, puis on n'a pas donné cette directive-là. Est-ce que c'est quelque chose qu'on devrait déjà donner à ce point-ci, avec le fait qu'on n'est pas rendu là dans le développement? Monsieur Godin?
Merci, Mr. Mayor. Just to mention, we do have, and Mr. Deschamps can speak to it if you have more to add, but we do have in the 2026 budget a study to evaluate what the future is of the industrial park and where we're going as far as future phases and whatnot. The question of a berm, like when we put this in a budget, the question of a berm or trees wasn't necessarily in mind, but I think it would make sense to complete that analysis before making any decisions as far as officially what we will do there, because depending on what those options are that come to the table, they might speak to what would make sense as far as what we want to do to that particular lot. Right. So I'm just so the council knows that there is a study being that hasn't
That's
started,
in our
but
budget.
it's in the budget.
Yeah. So, but because we are in the process of redoing the zoning bylaw, does that preclude us, or does that tie our hands down the road if we decide today what to do with that space? Monsieur Bourgon, Monsieur Godin, Monsieur Deschamps.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. So there is always a possibility to change zoning at a future date. I mean, nothing's there. We can change the zoning with the zoning bylaw, but we do often come to council with zoning bylaw amendments. So it's something that can be changed in the future. There is
Okay.
a mechanism for that.
All right, thank you. So I had Councillor Armstrong and then Councillor Lauren.
Yeah, I second this motion for a very good reason. First, we have minimum separation distances that the province forces us to do, but there are many cases where we should go farther and went beyond that, and this I think is one of the cases, being an industrial park, and the noise, light pollution, and other activities that go along with an industrial park, I find are somewhat difficult in rural residential zoning, and we need a good separation distance. Experience doing, developing military training areas and whatever in rural residential areas. Treed space is very good at separating light and sound of military activities from rural residential areas. Not perfect, but better. But the fact is, open space actually is a pretty open category for us to have some flexibility. But moving that line to the edge of that little turnaround at the end of Imar makes perfect sense to me. 70 meters is not really sufficient, in my view, for having a buffer. 140 meters, we're getting close to what I would think is a decent buffer. And so, yes, please support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lauren?
So, Mr. Bourgon, I guess my last question on it is, so it's 70 today, if we move it, it's another 70, but the person that buys that property still has to respect a 70 to the new edge of the open space, correct?
Monsieur Bourgon?
Merci, Monsieur Massel. That 70 meters, those guidelines, it's really from residential lots. So that open space being owned by us, when the setback required would still be from the residential property line, so we would be beyond that 70
Okay, so what would be the setback required for building an industrial building to that lot line?
You're increasing you're not, like it would be a higher density type of industry.
Can you clarify
So the light industrial, what we're right now, the permitted use, that's the 70 meters setback. So increasing that setback, well, you're just allowing a different type of industry. Not, the zoning won't support it, but still, that would kind of be the impact.
Maybe I'm not asking the question right. So if we were to change that lot line to the proposed additional 70 meters, so all the way up and down there, that's the new lot line, right? We're not going to sell the green once you move that line. We're not going to sell that green. That's still ours. So from that lot line, anyone who buys that top square, how close can they build to that lot line at that point in time?
Monsieur Bourgon?
Well, that being that new property line, they would have to respect the normal setback from our zoning bylaw.
And do we know what that setback would be?
I would need to open the draft to see, but it would typically be in, like, top of my head, like, I think it's like 10 meters or something like that from
the lot line.
But it would need to respect the zoning bylaw in place in terms of setback.
There wouldn't be that existing one of 70 meters would no longer apply because
we would be beyond.
So then we're talking probably about 150 meters completely, 70 plus the zoning bylaw of 10, so 150. So you're talking 450, 500 feet from a residential property at that point. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Deacon, go ahead.
I just have a question referring to Monsieur Bourgon's comment earlier, and that is, I believe that our official plan and our zoning bylaw do not propose more than light industrial in the 417 industrial park. Is that correct?
Monsieur Bourgon?
So for the not proposed lights, or sorry, I missed the part.
If I'm recalling the official plan correctly, which I believe, the official plan speaks to the zoning bylaw, it's pretty clear in the official plan what sort of industry would be permitted in those zones. And to my understanding, it's not more than light industrial.
So yes, you're correct.
Thank you.
The proposed zoning does reflect only light industrial because of the groundwater recharge area in that zone.
Yes, thank you. So if there were a change in the minimum separation distance, that would not automatically trigger that heavier industry could come into that area.
No, sorry, earlier I misunderstood the question from Councillor Doran. So
Thank you.
No, I didn't mean that we would increase the type of industry.
Thanks.
Okay. And from a cost perspective, and I know that, I just want to put it out there, removing the full 70 meters across that whole distance is roughly about 16 acres. So, Monsieur Godin, what is the impact for the municipality, and is there some way to recover that?
Merci, Mr. Marceau. At this point, we don't know. We've just received this as is.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
I can't say.
That's fair. I can assume based on the cost of a typical acre of land, what the cost would be, but I'd be interested in learning more in terms of, we purchased this land at some point in time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Through Mr. Mayor, so just to clarify and to provide more information, just based on the hypotheticals, if it is 16 acres, like you said, and we sell land at $100,000 an acre, that would be 1.6 million. and that doesn't speak to the tax revenues and whatnot that was included in that plan or that vision that when we did come to council with the EA for the road, and that different options were established, it was chosen to stop there, so that with that plan in mind, right? So we don't, the financial piece, we can't really speak to what exactly it implies, but there's a significant implication. I think there are different priorities in conflict here, so that I think they all need to be analyzed together and wait to be able to make a proper decision, but I leave it to council.
So if I understand correctly, Monsieur Godin, what you're saying is that what is the impact if we defer a decision like this, knowing what the direction of council is going towards? Can we defer that to get this data back? And how long would it take to get this data back? And not to say that the financial piece would it's just, I think it's important for our community and clarity of what is the cost of that, and how do we recover that cost if we're losing that cost or those potential revenues?
Yep, through you, Mr. Mayor. So we can definitely look at, and we would encourage that we look into this to analyze the implications. As far as timeline, I don't know. I would have to check with the team to see what that would entail. If it's something council wants to see quickly, that's one thing. If it's something council wants to see included in the study that we're already putting together or planning, it could be included there. Obviously, if that were to be the case, you wouldn't see, you probably wouldn't see that data and that analysis before a few months and probably early into 2027. But if you're simply looking to see at the financial piece of not selling that land, it should be pretty easy for us to calculate. But there are a lot of other implications that maybe we're not thinking about right now.
Thank you, Monsieur Godin. Councillor Lauren?
The other aspect that you need to also consider in that is the cost that we actually paid for the land. I get what we are selling land at today. It's not what we bought the land at. So the true loss would be the loss of the revenue that we already, or the cost that we put out for that property, and whether or not that's part of that whole piece. We can't just say we're losing $100,000 an acre. Well, no, we're not necessarily. We have to factor in the cost that we actually purchased that land for as part of that calculation.
Absolutely. Monsieur Godin?
Right, merci. That's a great point. But there are also a lot of costs that we put into the infrastructure to bring the development there that has to be considered in there. So, like I said, it can be a complicated analysis. So we would need time to figure out how to do that, and how quickly we can come back to council.
Okay. Follow up, Councillor Lauren, then I'll come to council.
Yeah, I mean, in that analysis, you would, if you were going to wait for a true analysis, you also have to factor in the entire industrial park that we've done, what we bought it for versus what we sold it for, and there's been wins along the way too. Like if there's a little bit of a loss on this side to help distance the industrial to the residential and ensure that there's a significant buffer, not just a regulatory buffer, that we make sure that they're not impacted, then you know what? I feel comfortable taking that loss at this point in time and ensuring that that we do the right thing here. We've gone this far. I think we can hold off a little bit in terms of the spacing of this project. So that's just my point of view.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Deakin?
Looking at the green polygon on the image, I'm not seeing how, I think I was informed that it's 16.7 acres, that polygon. And I'm not seeing how adding the thin strip 70 meters more would also equal 16 more acres. I think I'm just eyeballing it here, but I think that adding that thin strip, you have those two pieces jutting out, which would be quite a bit more land. So I'm just going to throw it out there that I don't believe it would be 16 acres, but would love to be proven wrong down the road when the new financial strategy for the industrial park comes forward. I just want to say that standing at the cul-de-sac, as I did late last week, looking at it, there is no amount of money that could convince me that industrial development should go further west.
Thank you. And just to be clear, the questioning is for informed decision purposes more than what I'm leaning towards. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. I think it's important for us to be as informed as we can in terms of making these decisions. And that includes the full scope of understanding financials, cost, opportunity cost that were sunk costs, and so on that were put in. Ultimately, I'd be interested in finding out some of that information, but it'll be up to council here to decide how they want to move forward on this. Anything else to add, Monsieur Godin, from staff perspective?
No.
Councillor Lauren?
From my perspective, all that stuff is great information to receive. However, I don't think anything in that report will change my opinion on this piece, and therefore I'm comfortable voting on this evening.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong?
Yeah, similarly, as I mentioned earlier, we should do this. It's good for the rural residential areas, and we may be setting a precedent for some time way down in the future, not foreseen by this council, but sometime down in the future. But we will plan those in when we have future industrial developments somewhere beyond the vision of this council.
Okay, I think we've discussed this enough. I'm assuming that someone will ask for a recorded vote. Is that a fair assumption?
Sure, well, record a vote, yeah, fine.
So given that it's going to be a recorded vote, I'm not going to vote in favor of this, and I just want to be clear in my rationale for it is just because I'm missing information, and not that I don't believe that the width of 140 is excessive, because I think it's not excessive, but I just would like the full picture, and that's the only reason. So I just wanted to be clear on that. So. So we're voting on the amendment. Sorry, questions? Oh, yes, sorry. Apologies. Questions from members of the audience. So question period on this item before it's voted on. Any questions from the community? So should I read the blurb again for question period? Yeah, okay, hold on a sec. I gotta read my my spiel. All right, so before asking the question, please fill in your name, address on the sign-in sheet. If you wish to receive a response from a member, please leave a phone number or email on the sheet. State only your name before asking a question. For some questions submitted in advance, that's irrelevant. And disclaimer, by asking questions during the council meeting, you are consenting to be part of the live broadcast and the official recording of the proceedings. So your name, please? Thank you.
Sorry, my name is J.D. Gauthier, 147 Edie Road.
Mr. Gauthier, go ahead.
I'd like to thank councillors for putting this motion forward. I'm a resident of Edie Road, and the impact of this industrial park has already started to affect us tremendously. Actually, last week, we had to get rid of a vehicle that was in the dead end on the street. Somebody decided that they would be welding and grinding pipe at 10:15 at night, waking up the kids. The dog was barking tremendously, wouldn't come home. Woke up my neighbors, and that's just the beginning. We have drug use in this.
I need a question,
Yeah.
Mr.
So
Gauthier.
the question is we need what will council commit to as far as buffers or long-term strategies to this problem moving forward once this resolution has come through.
Thank you, Mr. Gauthier. So if this resolution does go through, Monsieur Bourgon, at what point do we talk about what we put in that space? When does that come about? Monsieur Godin, Monsieur Bourgon.
Merci, Monsieur Masso. I couldn't say right now. I mean, the initial plan was for, like I mentioned, there was a study that's being done for the future of the industrial park. But I also mentioned that particular space in the buffer, the berm, or what goes on there was not necessarily the intent of that study. So Right now, I don't have a response as far as, we don't have a set timeline as far as making that decision for council. So if council wants to provide direction there, we're all ears. But our next step was to move forward with that, determining the future of the industrial park. And we can definitely include that as part of that analysis.
Thank you. Did I see your hand go up, Councillor Armstrong? No? And so I guess at this point, Mr. Gauthier, is that we don't have that information yet, but we will be asking, council to come back with, staff to come back with recommendations and direction what to do if this passes. But even if it wouldn't have passed, it would still have to come back with a plan of what to do with that open space per se.
So my question is then specifically, we had a meeting with the CAO a few years ago, expecting another meeting. It never happened. Will council direct staff to actually build berms and do specific things like we've asked in the past?
Well, so that would have to come through a process, a resolution from council, a motion from council, and direction from council. Yes, Councillor Deakin?
If I may, the amended resolution includes that open possibility and that staff considers resident input alongside planning expertise in consideration of municipal buffer blocks, vegetated berms, naturalized landscape corridors, and retained agricultural transition and buffer areas. So I do feel that that's already
It's
within
in
the
there.
resolution that council's considering tonight.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Gauthier. Any other questions?
Good evening. My name is Rhonda Bradley. I live at 159 Edie Road.
Good evening, Ms. Bradley. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Well, I could offer that this particular motion gives me a glimmer of some hope for what it means for me in my ongoing living situation. I won't be able to rest peacefully until I see things rolled into enforceable measures that may live beyond this council. So, because we're approaching election, we don't know how that's going to end up. So, I'm wondering what the relationship is between this motion and the zoning bylaw that is currently in process, and how much of some of this ambition for greater peace between these two uses could be enshrined in zoning bylaws, which are more enforceable and have more longevity.
Thank you. Monsieur Bourgon?
Depending on the vote later tonight, if the direction or the outcome is to increase that open space, the reflection will be made in the zoning draft that will be presented later to council.
Yeah, so it would go through the zoning process, and it would be open space for the whole 140 meters or whatever that distance is. Go ahead.
If the motion isn't passed this evening, then is this being contemplated within the planning structure? Some of the conversations that I've been having here in terms of increasing the separation, in terms of considering landscaping and berming and so on, to look at protection from light, sound, noise, vibration, dust, and not to mention residents, but also that this is a vulnerable groundwater recharge area, and most of us are on private wells.
Yeah, so Monsieur Bourgon, please jump in here, but I do believe the recharge area piece was addressed in through the county plan and through our plan. The zoning bylaw itself, by putting it open space, we're limiting what can be done there. And then through the amendment that Councillor Deakin has proposed, we are directing staff to come back, including options that have been researched with input from residents, and through a process of making sure that it's well represented so that we can have the best possible use. And that's regardless of whether it's 70 meters or 140 meters.
My last question is, in the official plan, there was call for a hold area, or H hold.
Yeah.
What's the relationship between that requirement and the zoning bylaw and this particular motion that's before council?
Sure, thank you. Monsieur Bourgon for the holding.
So the current zoning bylaw draft does include the holding provision for the industrial land over the recharge area. So essentially, the motion tonight, if approved or not, would not change the fact that the proposed zoning does include the holding provision.
Yeah, so the holding provision was as a request from the counties, correct?
Yeah, and it's now part of the township official plan.
Yeah.
So therefore, in the zoning draft, we see the holding provision over the industrial designation or the industrial zoning where we have the recharge water area.
That's correct. And so no development can happen there unless they meet all the conditions that are set forth in that, official plan.
So does that change the calculation for any members of council that development limitation already exists? So it kind of narrows the financial conversations in that you're limited, or it's limited in terms of what can go there in order to remove the H?
I'm not sure I understand, Ms. Bradley.
Well, in order to remove the hold, the township and the developer to whom it sells has to meet certain conditions.
That's correct.
And so that narrows the field in terms of who would be appropriate
correct.
for that area. So does that change the calculation in terms of lost opportunity costs because the H is already there?
Sure, I think that one could always argue that if the demand is there, a suitable purchaser or developer will be found. And so I don't think that there needs to be a calculation that reduces the viability of the lands that are there for now. I'm comfortable in that, and I don't think I think that's a prudent way, and I was happy to see the counties put that request towards us. I think it's a good way to ensure that we have that proper compatibility with developers.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bourgon or Mr. Godin, anything else to add on that particular piece? Councillor Armstrong, I noticed your hand came up.
Question answered.
Okay, Councillor Lawrence, sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to reconfirm that the draft of the zoning bylaw for council approval is coming June 22nd, which is our next council meeting, correct?
Monsieur Bourgon?
Merci, Monsieur Mayor. So yes, June 22nd, but with discussion with the planning team, we won't be asking council to approve the night of.
Oh,
We received several good comments over the last few weeks, so I think it deserved to be, they will be presented to council, part of that draft, but we want to let council more time to digest and to provide comments on the draft bylaw.
So is it safe to say that process-wise, this will be like a first reading? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
we can treat it that way. We were gonna propose the receive, or we could do a first reading as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So maybe a first reading would be good. Monsieur Bourgon?
And also just to reassure council, I know we did advertise June 22nd, but even if we postpone to the August meeting, we still meet all the requirements under the Planning Act.
Okay, and in terms of, we were discussing potentially having a special meeting anyways at some point. Am I wrong in that assumption, or was this contingent to this?
Merci, Mr. Manon. So the special meeting was if we're successful in our grant application, so I'm hoping that we do have one.
Okay, good.
Not guaranteed.
We can tack that on as well then. And in terms of, in terms of lame duck or anything like that, there's no risk for us for the August meeting, correct? Okay. Any other questions from members of the audience? Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from members of council? So we have an amendment on the table. I'll call the question. All in favor of the amendment?
We would ask for a recorded vote.
Yeah, so recorded vote.
Councillor Armstrong, yes.
Jamie, yes.
Lisa, yes.
Mike Ternosky, no. And again, for the reasons I said. So that is passed, thank you. And call for the vote for the amended, is this so? Amended motion. Do we need to reread it?
No, we already put it on the screen.
Yes.
We can put it back if you
Okay,
want.
I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And passed. Thank you, council. All right, that was good. We move to 15 resolutions. On s'en va à 15B, c'est ça? Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening, whoever wants to leave. All right, we're moving to
15B.
15B, thank you. Motion that council approve all recommendations listed on the agenda under item 11, reports from departments and council committees. Mover and seconder to put it on the table. Moved by Councillor Lauren, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Questions, comments, and removals. I believe we had item C to be removed. Call for a vote to remove, or any other items, sorry? No? So call for a vote to remove item C. All in favor? And passed. J'avais pas besoin de... Okay, a mover, seconder to remove the item, sorry.
That was for the main. I had Councillor
that's the-
Lauren and Councillor
Yeah, that's
Armstrong.
to bring it up, and then for the removal, I have Councillor Lauren and Councillor Armstrong again. Call for the vote for the removal. That's all in favor. Thank you very much. So call for the vote for all items listed under item 11 as amended. All in favor? And passed. Thank you. And let me get back to my item C. All right, so that council received report BLD G 2026-01 dated June 8th, 2026, and approved the addition of $90,000 to the building department's 2026 operational budget to be funded by the building department's reserve for departmental service review. This is moved by Councillor Lauren, seconded by Councillor Deakin. It's on the table. Questions, comments, or amendments? I would be comfortable if we move this to the budget 2027 discussions. I would propose that we amend it to the 2027 budget. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Questions, comments on the amendment? Councillor Deakin?
One of the reasons that I would like this pushed back for the 2027 consideration is I am interested in taking another look at the service review that had happened that the CAO was referring to earlier, and looking at opportunities to do service delivery review in the same spirit as this review for potentially other departments. I was very impressed with the theme of this review, looking at customer service in particular, as well as timing and collaboration between departments when needed. And so, as I said earlier, I'm curious to look at whether that same sort of approach could benefit other departments.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lauren?
I'm going to support the amendment because I think from the same perspective, if I look ahead to my item 18B, if I'm not mistaken, I'm talking about service standards for the planning department in accordance with the Planning Act, and here we're talking about the Building Act. So I think there's other opportunities there to do larger studies, maybe individually, not necessarily as a group, but because of the specific requirements of each. And the different acts, but I think we should be looking at that in the next budget, and then I'll talk more about some of the changes that I'd be looking at in 18B for that. So in terms of this specific one, I will support the amendment to push it to 2027 budget.
Thank you, Councillor. So we've got any other comments on this amendment?
Mr. Mayor, was it yourself or Councillor Deakin that
It was
proposed the-
myself, supported by Councillor Armstrong, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
And the amendment is to move this to the 2027 budget discussions. And so I'll call for the vote on the amendment. And passed. And so I'll call for the vote on the amended resolution. And passed. Est-ce qu'on a besoin de relire? On comprend ce qu'on s'en va?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, so we just motion deferred to the 2027 budget deliberations.
Yeah, thank you very much. And Chief, just from the final kind of word on that is that, given the fact that it wasn't an urgent thing, I think it's also good practice to do this through the budgeting process. I feel more comfortable that way. And so thank you very much. All right. Thank you. And I think that completes 15B, Madame Camille-Laflamme, oui. OK, alors on tombe à l'item 16. Motion that council, just looking real quick here, motion that council approve bylaws 2026-067 to 2026-069 inclusively for first, second, and third reading as listed on the agenda. And this is moved by Councillor Armstrong and seconded by Councillor Lauren. Call for the vote. All in favor?
I have a
Go ahead, Councillor
I'm
Armstrong.
just a comment. We have two bylaws here for part lot control. Yes, they're simple and whatever, but in general, I don't like approving a bylaw without some sort of a report, even if it's just a one-page report, somewhere in either 10 or 11. And I'll go with these two today, but just my comment in the future, I'd like to see that.
That's fair. Madame Camille-Laflamme or Monsieur Godin, it's like we're just following the procedure we have. If we were to add some details within the agenda to these bylaws, would we have to make a change to our bylaw?
Merci, Monsieur Massot. You mean to our procedural bylaw?
Yeah.
No. No, and these bylaws were previously in section 11 in the past, but they've never actually had introductory reports, because I think the information is directly in the bylaw itself, and I'll let Mr. Bourgon speak to it. I'm not sure if there would be any challenges to doing that. But.
Monsieur Bourgon?
So until tonight, all the previous meetings, there was only the mention in section 11, no reports at all. That refers to the bylaw.
Okay.
Now, in the spirits of all the consent items that we put in 10, now that we approved the revised procedural bylaw, we took the liberty, or we removed that step of 11 and just putting in directly under the bylaws. So if that way, there's no report, or there was no
There was never a
information
report.
previous, so we're just removing one paragraph for you to
Yeah.
read, basically. And council still have the ability to separate that bylaw if they want to ask questions.
Yeah. So we can still procedurally have discussions on any of them. It's just where it's put. I leave it up to, maybe we can discuss this as council. Any other thoughts from members of council on this? Anything other specifically, Councillor Armstrong, that you would like to see there?
And no, just that I've read a number of court issues in the past couple of years, and I have noted that courts tend to frown on councils passing bylaws without some sort of supporting information, and this case, just to inform me, we're going to have a new council, maybe the same council, maybe not, but many people will wonder what's going on and simply say that, well, this is a bylaw we pass, as opposed to actually asking a reasonable question somewhere along the way. And I know we can always question, like we're doing right now, but it's just that having that up front in section 10, for example, in the consent items, would solve that question in many future councillors' minds.
Thoughts by any other members of council? Councillor Deacon and Councillor Doran?
I don't mind the direction that Councillor Armstrong is going in and what he's describing. I believe that the report, if it would be developed, would be under Section 11. I don't think that including an item that impacts a bylaw should go in the consent agenda itself. But I have no issue with a quick couple paragraph report in the Section 11 itself.
Thank you, Councillor Loren.
Yeah, so I guess I'm a bit confused, only because for 20 years I've sat on council and I've seen the part law control item come up on the agenda. There's never been an attached report to it. It's just been part law control for this, and this, and the associated bylaw. So when the change came for the most recent update to the procedure bylaw, it just said we're going to eliminate that paragraph, because all that's going to do is Mr. Mayor is going to read part law control this. Mr. Bourgon, any concerns? No? Okay, and we move forward. But that also doesn't touch the other ones that are sitting in there as well in the bylaw section, which have never been in 11. The changes to committee meeting, the committee incorporations and stuff like that. So the report is in the bylaw section. So this section it's not a consent section. It is, the reports are there. We read them and we agree to them all together, but the reports are there. Because I've asked that question in the past. Well, where's the report on this? Well, it's in the bylaw section. Well, why isn't it in 11? Because it's in 16. So to me, because it's in 16, we always have the ability to ask the question in 16 on any one of those items before we vote and have the discussion like we're having right now prior to our vote. So I guess, saving a minute and a half per part law control reading makes sense. Doesn't need to be there. And if it was in item 10, we wouldn't have any discussion on it. It would just be there and it would just be voted on unless you pulled it out. But there would never be a reason to really pull out a part law control item. So anyway, that's just my thought on it. I think it's fine where it is at this point, and I may be in the minority, but I think it's fine the way we're doing it now.
Thank you. I'm comfortable with where it is right now as well. I mean, it's there, and we're able, as we are demonstrating right now, that we can stop the mayor and have a chat on any aspects of it. And so if councillor's comfortable with that, we can leave it at that. If not, we can have more discussion if you want. Councillor Deacon?
Just appreciating Councillor Loren's experience and the points that he made. And I think that for me, what it comes down to is civic literacy of our constituents and our residents to be able to look at an agenda and skim it and understand what aspects of it are going to be important for them to be looking into. And the average resident, I would put forward, may not know to scan down to Section 16. I am taking the point of Councillor Loren, and so that civic literacy piece is something that I'm going to be thinking about, but I'm okay with it staying as is. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you for feedback on this, folks. So I will continue moving. I do believe I read the motion, right? And we had a mover and seconder. And so we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And passed. Thank you very much. Okay, yeah.
Would there, and this is probably for the clerk, so would there be the ability, again, we may need a procedure bylaw change, but would there be an ability to add a last item in section 11 that just says, each one of the quick items that are in the bylaws that were not in the report? Not that we're going to ask about them, but just list, bylaw, or see additional reports in bylaw section that are not mentioned here, just to make sure people go look in the bylaws for those additional items that were not touched in 11. I'm just thinking out loud, just as a, for future procedural changes, and whether that's something that we could look at, just adding an item. Tonight would have been item J or whatever, and item J, see bylaw section for additional reports on on the table for tonight's meeting. Just something that directs somebody down to there as there's additional items that weren't discussed. So just a thought.
All right, thank you, Councillor. All right, we're moving to item 17, new business reports. We have none, and now we'll go into items 18. So 18A, request for bollard on Cobblestone and Russell. Councillor Lauren, the floor is yours, sorry.
Yeah, thanks. So in terms of the bollards, so most recently we've seen a lot of the bollards that were requested over time put in place in strategic areas of the municipality, and I think for the most part in areas where there's path crossings or trail crossings along the roads, and we put the bollards right in the middle of the road. That's great. In this specific case, there's a resident that would like to see one now on his street because he sees the importance of reduction of speeding, because that's what they're there for. So he's asking to have one put on the street. And what type of a process will it take to do it? I'd hate to see, now that we're going into the summer months, we're going into a July break, how long it would take to actually do a review and make a decision on it, or be able to present it to council to say, do we put one here or do we not? So that's something that I think we should be considering is the individual request without going through a full-blown study with radars and all that stuff. Putting up a bollard for a traffic calming in a subdivision, I think, is an easy fix, an easy win for us, and I think that's an important factor that we should look at. That being said, I think we also, when we're putting them into our subdivisions, we need to be strategic about it, not just putting them in that location because there's a trail crossing or something, putting it in a location that actually has a distance to travel for vehicles to ensure they can actually get to a speed greater than 40 kilometers an hour. And I'm only mentioning that one because I seen one today in the Stiver subdivision where on the short end of Stiver, there's a bollard in the middle, but on the long end of Stiver, there's nothing. So the speed comes from the long end, and then there's a 90-degree turn, and then right there's a bollard. So realistically, I don't think it was the proper location to put it. So we need to look at that as well. And then the third point to these are, I think when we're putting them in residential areas, I think we need to have some sort of a communication or a sign or road painting or something that says no parking within 50 feet of the bollard. And that is a big problem. And we took one of the bollards down in the middle on Concession right beside Saint Joseph, the one in the middle, because there was significant issues with that area. Parking on right close to it on either side forces vehicles to go into the other lane or go over top of the bollard. I don't think residential vehicles were designed or meant to go over that bollard. Vehicles like farm equipment that have wider spaces, yeah, they would have to go over top of it, but a residential vehicle shouldn't be going over top of a bollard. And I was driving down in Old Town today to look at the Cobblestone Road area one, and when I went around, I took a picture of the bollard, and that's on Old Town, and there was a pickup truck parked, and then there was a vehicle with a trailer on the back side of it, parked basically right backed up towards the bollard. So there would be no opportunity for that vehicle coming the other way to get around through that bollard. They would be forced to go around the other way. So, and over the weekend, I've heard multiple complaints of that specific issue. So if we can look at options and processes to fix those problems with the bollards, I think that would be great. Otherwise, my opinion, again, my own opinion, not that of council, is those road calming measures aren't working, and we put up things like a speed hump or something else, or stop signs or whatever in those areas. And I think that's been frowned upon by administration in the past, but we need to make sure we make it safe for vehicles to park on the street, but not within a certain area of the bollard. So 3 pieces to that one for discussion.
Thank you. I do believe, Monsieur Bourgon, we do have a traffic calming policy. And in that policy has a process on when we decide to add traffic calming measures to certain streets. And so that ensures that we have kind of a standard to go across based on requirements, correct?
Yes, that's correct. The township or the council does have a policy to do some screening of where, or basically to screen requests from residents.
Yeah, with the idea being that we're trying to have certain like a consistency across, right? So we don't want to be in a position where, my buddy on his street got one, I want one on my street because I feel people are going too fast. And not to say that that person may not be right, but we have a process to get to that. And so how long does that process take to review from our perspective?
It depends if the location does pass the pre-screening. Then if it does, well, we'll do some traffic, we'll do the speed analysis, we'll count we'll do a traffic count to determine the appropriate calming measure to implement.
And so that pre-screening process is relatively quick, and then we would have to go through a longer term to analyze the actual speeds and so on to make sure that it works. And so just quickly on that traffic calming policy that we have, how old is that? And is it due for an update?
2018, and council already made the request to review or to update it in next year's business plan.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Doran, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, just as just a follow up to that one, I guess. What about the requests that don't meet the pre-screening qualifications?
Monsieur Bourgon?
We advised the resident that their request was not valid or did not pass or did not qualify for the traffic calming measure.
Thank you.
And then they come to us.
That's correct.
That's
Yeah.
typically
Right?
how it goes, yeah.
So that's I feel is what's going to happen in a lot of these cases, that the requests come in, and that's why I'm bringing it up to at 18A right now, because I know for that specific one, it will not meet the criteria to screen in a whole entire process. So.
But are you saying, Councillor Doran, just to clarify, are you asking for an exception to our process for this particular aspect?
I guess I would ask for direction to staff to come back with a report at the next meeting, whether or not it would meet any criteria for a bollard, and if not, then council can make a decision on whether or not to put up a bollard in between the stop sign and gas light on cobblestone.
Mr. Bourgon, is that enough time for your team to pre-screen it?
Yes, but it's to make the report to council. That's it's Thursday at noon, our deadline.
Yeah,
so it's going to be difficult.
And so if it doesn't meet that timeline, then it goes to August, correct? Monsieur Godet?
Merci, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, I mean the next meeting would be in August.
Yeah.
And so if council wants to deal with that specific case directly, a report could be brought in August, or it could be looked at as a whole. I think I understand where you're coming from with the questions going to council members after a refusal, and so I think the review of the policy is really the appropriate mechanism to make sure council is comfortable with what administration is using to say yes or no. So I think that review of the policy is probably
crucial.
An opportunity for that.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Armstrong, sorry.
Yeah, I agree with the review of the policy. I get questions like this as Councillor Doran gets to. One of the things that I'd like to ask is that it also include standards of where such bollards or other traffic calming measures go within parking and within residential driveways, because the biggest complaint I actually get is I'm trying to pull out of my driveway, and if you're driving a little Chevrolet Spark, you can just about get anywhere you want with the bollards, but the next time they buy an F-250 or whatever, then there's a problem. So, or it's the next resident that buys the house or whatever. Just if there are standards that we can then go and bring up with the residents as well, that it equips us to discuss with residents.
Yeah, and I think that's the important part is for us to have access to those tools. We can quickly send that to the residents so they know what to expect when it's presented to staff. Monsieur Bourgon, you
I
want
was
to
going to
add
add
something?
that we do look at driveways all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes people have that impression that they need lots and lots of like space.
Yeah, fair enough. No,
but
it's
we
part of
need
the
to
policy.
we need to manage to be try to
Effective.
be right in the middle, and we do see locations where we're really limited, where there's boulders where council did approve the location where we couldn't, or we got the feedback, or we had to tweak. We have to. So we do. I just wanted to add to make sure that council understand that we do look at driveways carefully when we implement the
Excellent.
boulders.
Thank you. Councillor Lauren, follow up?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I thought I heard earlier tonight that you may be looking at a special meeting between June 22nd and August 17th. And if you did, then if that report could come in on that meeting, if not, then obviously August would be the next meeting, but.
So hopefully we'll get a big grant and we'll have that special meeting.
I'm just saying. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monsieur Godin, Monsieur Bourgon. Does that all make sense?
Merci, Mr. Master. Just to confirm, if it's council's direction to come back with that specific case, we'll do so. And if not, we'll address it with the policy.
Yeah, so I think it needs to be addressed with the policy, but to come back for clarity to council of why this particular one wasn't approved, that it doesn't meet the requirement, and then if a council member wants to go further with that, I would recommend that we don't do exceptions until our policy is updated, because really then every other resident could start asking the same thing, because we do get a lot of emails for a lot of aspects, and so that consistency piece is a lot easier in the long term, certainly for our community. Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Lauren. On that, I move to item 18B, service standards for planning notifications within the Planning Act. Councillor Lauren?
Yes. So I think I sent copied Monsieur Godin on the request, but you were out of office on Friday, and Monsieur Boudreau was busy over the last couple of days, so I didn't get the numbers or the figures I was looking for, which is fine. It'll just be the beginning process for what I'm going to be asking for anyway. So Monsieur Bourgon, when you ask Monsieur Boudreau over the next little while for some numbers, he's already in the process of gathering that data for you. So recently, at the planning meeting, we had our committee of adjustments meeting. We had some concerns over notification for planning and for a planning item or that was on. It was a notice of motion, but I mean, the Planning Act is specific that it's for anything that's related to planning anyway. That there's a notification period that is required, and their minimum standard is that notification goes out with no later than 10 days prior to the meeting. And I know over the years, again, having sat at planning for many years, that people have come in and said, well, I didn't get my notice at all, or I just got it on Friday, the meeting's on Monday. That's not enough time for me to review. The sign, I didn't see the big sign, or it was hidden, or whatever. So I think we need to go more than the minimum standard of the Planning Act when we submit these notices to members of the public. Therefore, I think, and again, we talked about the service delivery reviews. I think there should be a planning department service delivery review done, because I would want to see a township standard being 15 days prior to the meeting when notices go out. Just because the Planning Act says the minimum is 10 doesn't mean we have to meet the minimum. I think we could be better than that to ensure that everyone receives their notice with ample time to be able to ask questions of staff, even of the proponent, if they so choose to do so. And I would go one step further, understanding that the planning items, severances and zoning amendments and stuff have a greater buffer zone. It's 120 meters for affected properties. But notice minor variance, I keep mixing that up. The minor variances have half that distance, 60 meters. So what I've asked Mr. Boudreau to do is put together what the total number of minor variances we've done in the last 4 years, so this last term of council, and how many notices go out with each one of those types of minor variances to see if there's a better way we can deliver those, whether it be personal delivery, whether it be registered delivery, something that we can prove that that particular location received that notice. And the one in particular was a minor variance. There were two affected properties other than the property that the minor variance was on. So for two people, we could have driven down the road, given them to the both of them, and off we go. We would have known they would have got it 10 days before. In this circumstance, I'm asking for 15. Again, looking at what it would take, what that service standard would be. Does it mean a half an hour, somebody driving down to an area to deliver, 3, 4, 5 notices? I think that ensures that the public receive their notifications. I think that's a standard that we could absolutely achieve. Again, my own opinions, and I leave it open for discussion for council.
Monsieur Bourgon, anything to add on that from staff perspective? Monsieur Godin?
Merci, Mr. Mayor. No, it's always something we can do to look at our service deliveries. I would just think about the scope. Do we want to do a full service delivery review, which is something we would probably want to budget for and plan for, or we could have some simple internal discussions to see if there are easy tweaks that we can just do internally, and if that's the case, we can report back to council just to let you know. So whatever council wants.
Merci. Councillor Doran?
I think that's a great idea. Come back to council with something about this. That would be great. I think that's what I responded back to when you asked what expectations were for this. And I just want to point out that I do not believe, from an administrative perspective, that we are missing the deadlines. It's the reception by the people that are being delayed for many reasons. It could be we submit it late in the day and it doesn't go out. It's a Friday. The Monday morning it goes out. You've already lost 3 days, right? So there's that timing issue and whatnot. I just want to make it better and ensure people get their notifications. And I'm not in any way suggesting administration is doing something wrong. I think we just do it better.
Thank you, Councillor. Anything else to add from other members of council on this item? No. Thank you. All right, moving to 18C, Central Park speeding. Councillor Deacon.
It's a popular topic tonight. This one, I want to ask a couple of questions about this particular case, and it does build on the earlier conversation, so I'll try to keep it brief. I was contacted by a resident who's concerned about speeding along Central Park Boulevard in Russell, and I'd like to know, when were the speed humps and the crosswalk added, those traffic calming pedestrian safety measures? Was that this year or last year?
Monsieur Bourgon?
They were implemented late last fall.
Last fall. Okay, so they've been there for a period of time during the season in which they would be most likely used, cyclists, pedestrians out. Were those measures determined through the traffic calming policy?
Thank you, Councillor. Monsieur Bourgon?
Those measures were part of an analysis or pedestrian safety plan that was presented to council in 2021. It had several locations throughout the municipality,
Right.
looking at ways or looking at the main arteries within subdivision to implement or to be proactive implementation of and they would qualify under the policy, but council just approved several locations under one report.
So it was one report for the entire municipality?
Yes.
But that did qualify under the
It
traffic
did,
safety
yes, and all the
policy and the
location that
screening.
were approved did qualify. It
Mhm.
just, council approved it as a whole,
Mhm.
all those locations, and Central Park was one of them.
And all of the work that was to be done for traffic calming on Central Park has been completed?
There's still some items left. It's a matter of like the road being transferred to the municipality. 'Cause
For
we
the
had-
section that hasn't
For those
yet.
sections,
For
yeah,
the
and that
section,
goes
yes.
for other arteries of that kind elsewhere in the municipality. So council did approve the work, but we had to have full ownership or the entire transfer after the subdivision's final.
Excellent, thank you.
So my last question on that is, I do believe strongly that we need to look at the traffic policy again. What happens when those calming measures are implemented in terms of following through on measuring the impact that those traffic calming measures have? Because what I have here is a gentleman who, there are traffic calming measures that have been implemented on his section of Central Park, and he is continuing to see, in his experience, he's continuing to see speeding. I'm wondering, in this particular case, if the next step would be to bring some form of data measurement in those mobile radar speed collectors. But then in a policy perspective, which is where I want to be working more than these sort of one-off Band-Aid sort of conversations that come up, from a policy perspective, do we have anything in the traffic calming policy now about what happens when the measures that have been implemented are determined not to have been effective enough?
Well, so 2 points, Monsieur Bourgon. For the municipality to determine the effectiveness of the traffic calming policies, what is our approach?
We just haven't done it yet, but our plan was to redo a speed analysis or traffic count on that segment.
Okay, so we do have a process.
And because we have our measurement prior, and so we could cross-reference with those new data. Most of the complaints that we see, typically, there's no speeding. It's always a perception, sorry.
But we have and that's part of the traffic calming policy, the follow-up piece, is that in the policy?
We haven't got there for that specific one yet.
Okay.
And to see what's the wording in the policy, and if there's one, I would need to go back and look.
Thank you. Follow-up,
Yeah,
Councillor?
I'm really relieved to hear that, and I think that being able to have that data and for residents to be able to see the before and the after would be very powerful, one way or the other. So I thank you for that information.
Thank you. Merci, Monsieur Bourgon. Okay, moving to 18D, just requesting for public consumption. Do we have any update on the timeline for the water restriction right now because of the work being done?
There's thank you, Mr. Mayor. So there's back and forth right now to establish or to update the schedule, but it won't be at the end of this week. It's going to be later in the summer. So we were planning to issue a statement later this week when we have the
Excuse me?
finals.
Sorry, Monsieur Bourgon, sorry, folks. Could I just get you, folks? We're trying to have that meeting. I apologize, but sorry, Monsieur Bourgon. Are you telling me that the original timeline was
mid-June?
Okay, and now you're telling me it's moving into the summer?
Into the summer, exactly. So, donc, nous allons avoir l'échéancier révisé dans les prochains jours, mais on a eu quand même informellement que ça va être prolongé là, plus tard dans l'été. Donc, on espère aussitôt qu'on a les confirmations par écrite de nos consultants puis du contracteur, on va pouvoir émettre les directives et aviser la population du prolongement.
OK, puis ça vient comme une surprise, là?
Dans ce genre de réparation-là, oui, tout est une surprise jusqu'à un certain point.
OK. Puis nous autres, au niveau du contrat, on n'avait pas there's no performance aspects on the contract?
There is, there's some deadline in the contract, but if If some things come up, we are covered under a provisional item in our contract, but so the contractor can ask or apply for an extension of the contract.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming with a partial solution for, that we are using right now, the odd days and everything else, so that's helpful. And so council members, be ready, that's probably going to come up from residents. And 18E, update on the intersection and the access for Notre-Dame pour aller l'autre bord du pont. Est-ce que ça a été ouvert ou est-ce que ça s'en vient ouvert?
Donc, notre date était projetée le 12 juin. Encore une fois, demain matin, on a une rencontre avec le contracteur afin de déterminer où il en est dans les travaux, est-ce qu'on va faire avec cette projection-là, voir si on peut rouvrir ou si on doit prolonger.
OK. Fait que vous pourriez rien me dire en ce moment, c'est ça?
Non, malheureusement, c'est ce que je peux dire au Conseil. Puis aussitôt qu'on a la confirmation, comme qu'on a fait la dernière fois, nous allons l'afficher au public, puis à voir si on est capable d'aller dans la prochaine phase de fermeture ou si on doit maintenir le statu quo là, pour une autre semaine.
OK. Puis la prochaine phase de fermeture, M. Bourgon, de quoi on parle?
Donc, la prochaine phase, c'est on va être à la section à l'est de Notre-Dame. So the next step, once we reopen Saint-Pierre and Sainte-Marie, we will move the construction on Notre-Dame moving east. So we'll have closure of those sections.
But the businesses will still be accessible?
Yeah, exactly. Like we see right now, there's the contractors doing a good work or good job to support the businesses, put up signs, make sure that they have access all the time. Donc, ça va être la même approche tout le long de la construction. Là, les entreprises vont toujours avoir accès et les résidents vont avoir accès à leur résidence également.
OK, fait qu'en sommaire, ce que vous me dites pour les deux projets comme tels, c'est que cette semaine, on est aujourd'hui lundi, d'ici la fin de la semaine, on devrait avoir des mises à jour sur le
exactement.
site.
Pour les deux projets, là, c'est une semaine pivotante là, pour avancer ou avoir une des meilleures directives, là, puis informer les résidents.
OK, merci beaucoup. Okay, and that concludes 18. I believe I've got everything covered. Am I missing anything? No. Okay, so we move to 19, public consultations, hearings. We have none. Item 20, announcements. Any announcements from members of council? No announcements. 21, strategic discussion. We have none. Item 22, closed session. So motion to move into closed session at the hour of 9:12 p.m. To address matters pertaining to Section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001, SO 2001, Chapter 25, to consider matters relating to 1. Negotiation land purchase Notre-Dame Street, Embrun, Report CS 2026. 11, S2C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and S2K, a position, plan, or procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on behalf of the municipality or local board, and 2, closed session minutes of the regular council meeting dated May 25th. And that is moved by Councillor Lauren, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Call for the vote to go into closed. All in favor? And passed. We are now going to be going to close. We'll take another 5-minute break between that. Thank you very much, members of the audience. We are going to be closing.